for the Tuesday, May 23rd Board of County Commissioners. And I'd like to start by asking the Pastor Roger Phillips to come forward for invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance to follow, led by Commissioner Harvey. Please stand if you can.
Our Father, you are the mighty God, all-knowing, all-kind, all-loving, all-good. So, Father, we come this morning gathered together asking for your blessing. Thank you for this great nation. Lord, we pray that you would lead and guide our elected leaders, those that have been appointed to office. Lord, we pray for wisdom. We pray for justice. We pray for peace. Lord, pray you would continue to bless the state of ours, the state of Florida. Thank you for this wonderful place that many of us here call home. Lord, we thank you for the blessings that you continually pour out upon this area. Thank you for prosperity. Thank you for those that have committed their lives to serve. Thank you for this county. Lord, what a blessing it is to be a citizen and a resident here. And so, Father, we come to this meeting this morning thanking you for those public officials that have taken a place of leadership here in our county. They're plotting a course, prayerfully, that you would lead them and guide them towards. Father, be with them. Give them benefits and give them produce for their efforts, Lord. We pray in this meeting that we'd have calmness of mind and of spirit. Lord, that we would do only those things that honor and give you glory. And Father, we continually seek your presence in our lives and your guidance and your direction. Forgive us, Lord, when we're less than that and when we fail. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Phillips, and thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Chair will entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes stated in our agenda packet.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. We're going to, well, we've got a 9:05 time certain on our public hearing for planning and development. So I think what we'll do is just wait 2 minutes. 1 minute now. Pastor, if you'd have known this, you could have just prayed an extra minute or two and we wouldn't have had to wait.
I've got a short sermon if that's
Could we turn the air up a little in here? Okay, it's 9:05, time for our time certain public hearing on planning and development, and we'll go with case number PUD 2202. Joe?
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Joe Searley, Planning and Development Services. This is a major modification to the Trails and Outdoor PUD Ordinance 2020-03. The applicant is Keith Valentine. This is a 36.9 acre parcel located at 145 Willis Road, 163 Willis Road, and 162 Willis Road, located off of US 19. The applicant's proposing to remove a 2.15 acre parcel from the PUD, the overall PUD, and revert the zoning back on that parcel to agriculture, similar to what we did with Bear Island, and to provide an additional 26 RV pads to the existing 34, or remaining 34.75 acre RV park, for a total of 44 RV sites. There are several parcel numbers, 4 parcel number ID numbers included with this. There was an error in the staff report that included 2. Our GIS maps were incorrect. So the existing Trails End Outdoor PUD was originally approved in 2005 through Ordinance 2005-18 and later amended in 2020 to allow for the following uses: 18 RV sites, 10 primitive camping sites, 3 single-family residential units, resource-based and activity-based recreational units, or uses, events including weddings, reunions, and retreats, equestrian uses, agricultural uses, and a commercial landscape business, later approved through a special use permit. There are 2 parcels totaling 3.14 acres that are within the rural residential future land use designation, while the remaining 33.76 acres are within the agricultural future land use designation. As mentioned, the applicant's proposing to remove a 2.15 acre parcel within the rural residential future land use classification from the PUD and revert it back to agricultural zoning, leaving 34.75 acres within the PUD zoning. He is also adding 26 RV sites. Further site design review will be completed at the DRC process prior to permit issuance. Here is an aerial of the overall PUD as it exists today. That's predominantly surrounded by agriculture and some residential to the south. I don't know if you can see this on your end, but the future land use is a mixture of rural residential and agriculture. The zoning is predominantly PUD. There is another PUD to the east that is not a part of this PUD. And there are minimal wetlands on site. At the Planning Commission on April 11th this year, they voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed PUD. Staff recommends approval of the request for a major mod to the Trails End Outdoor PUD as described in the attached ordinance and exhibits. I believe the applicant is here, as well as staff, to answer any further questions on this matter.
Is there any further questions of staff at this time? Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
seeing-
I have one.
Commissioner.
On page 19 of the packet, and I had concerns on this before about the maintenance of the road. At one point, and who determines when the conversation, if it happens, between the owner and the county of a shared maintenance on the access road?
It would be a determination by the Public Works Department at the Development Review Committee stage that would be subsequent to this approval.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions of staff at this time? Okay, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Is there anybody present that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Okay, seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of ordinance number 2023-004, amending the county zoning map. It's consistent with the rules and regulation of our local PUD ordinance, and I move approval of that ordinance, sir.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Adams-Ack?
Yeah, I just would like to disclose that I have been to this property, met the owner, my family and I have been there, and it's, just wanted to let everyone know that it has no bearing on my vote today, but I am aware where this property is, and my family has visited on 2 occasions.
Well, thank you for that. Is there any more comments? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're going to move to rezoning case REZ 2301. Zach?
Thank you, Commissioner. For the record, Zachary Baker, Planning and Development Services. This is a rezoning REZ 23-000001. The application here is to amend the current zoning map. The applicant is Albino Gall and Maria Riviera. Their agent is Jerry Diedenbach with CHW Professional Consultants, who is present today. The parcel is approximately 9.51 acres, located at the intersection of Pettit Road and US Highway 17 South in Crescent City. PID is 03-1227-0000-0050-0180. The request here is to amend the current zoning, which is Ag and Commercial Retail C2, entirely to Commercial Retail C2 for the construction of a commercial retail store. The 9.51 acre parcel is currently vacant. Approximately 1.18 acres of the parcel contains C2 zoning currently. However, that current Z2 portion is not large enough to support the proposed use. Mixed uses surrounding the parcel contain social clubs, gas stations, retail stores, restaurants, single-family residences, agriculture, and vacant lands. The vacant lands contain commercial zoning designations and agricultural zoning designations. The subject parcel and surrounding parcels contain a commercial future land use designation. The initial request by the applicants was to rezone that parcel C2 to just encompass 2.68 acres. But the applicant was asked by staff to consider rezoning the entire parcel to eliminate the incompatible ag zoning and the commercial future land use. And the applicants did agree to amend their application. Here you have an aerial of the subject parcel. There's a power easement that runs kind of along the west side, north on the parcel, and then cuts back over to the west. The future land use you can see is all agriculture. There's a little notch down there on the adjacent to US Highway 17. That is a separate parcel. It has ag land use, ag zoning, and it just contains a billboard. So it's under separate ownership. That is not included in this request. And then here you have the zoning, the current zoning of the subject parcel. You can see it's already got the C2 zoning there at the intersection, and the applicants are just wanting to rezone the rest of the parcel to the same zoning. So the portion of the parcel containing C2 zoning designation would allow for retail stores, general use. The proposed development requires more C2 land than what currently exists. Per section 4582 of the Land Development Code, the commercial retail C2 zoning designation allows for the requested commercial retail store use by right and aligns with the commercial future land use classification. The proposed development will be reviewed by the Development Review Committee to ensure appropriate site design if the rezone is approved. If the development will be accessed by Pettit Road, the developer will be required to pave a portion of Pettit Road in accordance with Putnam County roadway standards. So findings and recommendations, staff finds that the proposed rezoning from Ag and C2 to C2 is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the adopted comprehensive plan. It is allowed in the present future land use designation. It is not anticipated to adversely affect the orderly development of the adjacent and surrounding properties, as the property is subject to the development standards of the Land Development Code and meets the locational requirements of the C2 zoning district provided in the Land Development Code and the comprehensive plan. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the request to amend the zoning map from Ag and C2 to C2. This is an old PowerPoint. I had a new one that stated the Planning Commission at their April 12th, 2023 public hearing unanimously approved this request, but that's not in this PowerPoint. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
That was my question there. You already answered. So does anybody have any questions of staff at this time?
I do. And Zach, we talked a little bit about yesterday, but you see the aerial of the amount of different roads that come off of 17. You've got Shriners Club Road, and we just approved the possible building of a tire store right there, and you have Euclid Avenue, and then you've got Pettit. I know there was some discussion about they may apply for a turn lane, and come off of 17, or is the access going to be definitely just right off of to Pettit Road?
So when we started this discussion with the applicants, their conceptual design of the lot showed access only off of Pettit Road. But whenever they go through the actual development, they will need to notify the Florida Department of Transportation of the proposed plan and have a drainage permit approved by them. DOT is the regulating authority over 17, so they will be the ones to determine if a turn lane is going to be required. They'll also, do everything that they can in their powers to make sure that the access is safe off of 17 onto Pettit Road.
All right, thank you. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Is there any further questions of staff at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll open the floor for comments. Is there anybody in attendance today that would like to speak in favor of this?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Jerry Diedenbach. I am the agent for the applicant. In light of staff's presentation and your lack of questions and the unanimous approval from your Planning and Zoning Board, I'll keep this as brief as possible and hope that you support this based on the staff recommendation. You have a long agenda. Have a good day.
Thank you. Is there anybody today that in attendance that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of application REZ 23-000001 because of the land development code, and it's consistent with our land development code and the Planning Commission decision.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Next, we'll move on to item C on the agenda, which is the Type 1 subdivision preliminary plat, SD 22-008, the Bayou Club. You taking that one, Zach?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
I'm waiting on there we go. Okay. For the record, Zachary Baker, Planning and Development Services. This is case SD 22-008. The applicant is St. John's River Estates, LLC. Their agent, Bob Morgan, with RGM Engineers, is present today. The request is the creation of a 110-lot Type 1 subdivision as an expansion to the existing Bayou Club PUD. The property is located northeast of East Buffalo Bluff Road, northwest of the existing Bayou Club residential development. The proposed development encompasses multiple parcels, but the main address for the application here is 152 Bayou Drive in Satsuma. The proposed subdivision name is going to be Bayou Club 2, aka River Estates. The subject parcels are governed by PUD Ordinance 1991-20, which was approved on October 22nd, 1991, 2 months prior to the implementation of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan, which established density requirements. So the development entitlements are already in place for this subdivision. We are just simply trying to allow them to plat this subdivision, create more lots, put in the infrastructure to support the units, and then see them move forward with building. The subject parcels equate to approximately 42 acres of land. Most of that land will remain unplatted and count towards the open space and conservation areas which are required by the PUD. Parcels to be developed include the original PUD, which allows primarily single-family residences. The proposed project is a continuation of what was already approved in 1991. Ordinance 1991-20 allowed a total of 210 residential lots. 95 have already been platted. The proposed 110 lots is permitted within the associated development agreement. Per the ordinance, the maximum lot size allowed in the community is 4,000 square feet. The smallest lot on the proposed plat is 4,813 square feet. The Development Review Committee has reviewed the preliminary plat, case DRC 22-018, and motioned to forward the request to the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners is being presented with the preliminary development order to be signed if the project is approved. That will allow them to move forward with those requirements prior to completing the final plat. Once a preliminary development order is issued, the developer will be required to adhere to those imposed conditions before the final plat can be submitted. So here you have the submittal of the preliminary plat. This is the proposed subdivision. It is quite small. You can see the majority of this subdivision is taking place on the left side of the screen. This is the north side of the property, though. It's just not turned the correct way. Here is an aerial of the parcels that are named in the application. If you look just kind of northwest of the existing development, you can see a stormwater pond on this aerial. The majority of these proposed units will kind of fall in around that stormwater pond and closer towards East Buffalo Bluff Road. Here you have the zoning layer highlighted on our GIS reference maps. You can see they're all included in that PUD zoning. The future land use designation here, we've got a little rural residential on the west side and then some agriculture on the east side. This rural residential was approved, I want to say 2016, 2017. The density was already established on the PUD ordinance, which predates the comprehensive plan, so that governing document will allow them to exceed the density of what the future land use would allow, but they're not exceeding the density of what the PUD allows. This map also shows the FEMA special flood hazard areas. The majority of the development is going to be in X. There's like super small slivers of AE on some of the parcels on the edge, but none of the proposed lots will be entirely within a flood zone. And then here you have the wetlands. Same with the wetlands. They barely encompass any of the proposed lots, if at all, and we don't anticipate any sort of development within those wetlands. They're going to remain the conservation and open spaces. So the proposed lots adhere to the minimum residential density requirements of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan, given that Ordinance 1991-20 established specific density requirements for this development. The proposed lots meet and exceed the minimum dimensional requirements of the residential lot sizes stipulated by Article 3, Section 3.4 of Ordinance 1991-20. The proposed lots meet the minimum road frontage requirements stipulated by LDC Section 45-632 of the Land Development Code. The proposed development will be accessed using private rights-of-way to be maintained by the developer. Impacts to East Buffalo Bluff Road will be determined before a final plat is accepted. Drainage improvements will be provided within the proposed subdivision. The request is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan. It is compatible with the surrounding zoning and uses, and it is consistent with the requirements of the Putnam County Land Development Code. Staff is recommending approval of the request for the preliminary plat approval for the 110-lot Bayou Club 2 subdivision expansion, subject to the following conditions. Prior to submitting the final plat, the developer shall amend the development agreement to remove the language regarding the minimum 100-foot by 150-foot parcel within the Bayou Club 2 utility area and with access to County Road 309B, East Buffalo Bluff Road, that was supposed to be conveyed to Putnam County, and the final plat shall include the proposed upgraded wastewater treatment plant with details as to how the existing and proposed developments will be connected to that wastewater plant. And the developer shall provide Putnam County Planning and Development Services a copy of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection permit or permit application, whichever is available, for the proposed upgraded wastewater system to ensure the appropriate wastewater capacity is accounted for. Prior to the submittal of the final plat, a traffic study shall be submitted to Putnam County Planning and Development Services to determine if more than 250 vehicles per day will be accessing the development. If so, a right turn lane conforming to Putnam County access standards will be required prior to approval of the final plat. And prior to the approval of the final plat, a surety bond compliant with the requirements of Land Development Code Section 45-1043 shall be provided by the developer to the county administrator and held in an account established by the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners. At the April 12th, 2023 Planning Commission public hearing, the Planning Commission voted simple majority 5-2 to recommend approval of the proposed subdivision to the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners and impose the following conditions. All roads will be repaired once construction is complete, and the water system is to be upgraded before construction begins. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the staff report and my presentation today.
Mr. Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate all the hard work the Planning Commission did and staff on this. I have a couple of questions, though. The Planning Commission wanted to make sure all the roads were repaired, but that's not in our list of things here on page 157 on staff recommendations. Can we include that in there to make sure it gets done?
Yes, so with that packet that I sent to you, there should be somewhere in there the minutes where the Planning Commission made those two additional
It
conditions.
is, but it's just not one of the 1 through 5 criteria.
Yes, sir.
Maybe we could make that number 6.
We can do whatever you give us direction to do. I just didn't want to amend the staff report presented to the Board of County Commissioners, making it different than what was presented to the Planning Commission.
Gotcha. The other question I have on item number 3 under staff recommendations, it says an FDE permit or permit application. I would be more comfortable with just the FDEP permit and scratch out the application. I'd rather see the permit in hand versus the application in hand. That's just how I feel. And the last and final thing, number 5, to protect the citizens, and I'm sure some are here today, a bond is required. Do we know how much bond is going to have to be put up to make sure the infrastructure is up to date the way that the Planning Commission and staff is wanting? Do we know what kind of bond we're looking at, the cost of that, or the amount?
We don't yet know the value of the bond.
Okay.
Without having the legislation in front of me, I believe the developers are supposed to provide 3 estimates, and then we turn that over to the Public Works Department for them to review and determine what amount is to be turned in for the bond. I know it's 110% of that estimated value for completing the construction.
Now, I know we all know what a bond's for up here at this area, but it might get rid of some questions in the audience. Would you explain why we're going to require a bond?
Yes, sir. So the bond is, it's a security for Putnam County to hold in case the developers are unable to complete or cannot financially complete the project. That allows Putnam County, we would already have the money in place to move forward, complete drainage, roads, wastewater improvements, water improvements, whatever would be necessary to ensure that the development can be completed and to make sure that we maintain the health, safety, and welfare of the public.
Do you think 110% is adequate because of price increase, or do you think it needs to be a little bit more, or is that our maximum under the LDC?
I would have to read the LDC to see if we have the flexibility to change the amount. That being said, I'm not really well-versed in bonds
That's
and
okay.
how much we would need. We'd probably have to defer to our legal counsel and see what we can do with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Suggs, you had something?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. One thing that staff would like to see also included in the conditions, not only just wastewater, but water itself. Make sure that the utility system out there is brought up to compliance for all the new lots as well.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, if a motion is brought forth today, we would appreciate if that motion identifies those specific, rewording of the conditions, like Commissioner Harvey, you brought up something about scratching the permit application. We just want to be super clear with what this motion is going to look like if it moves forward today.
Commissioner Adams-Zach, you had something?
Yeah, with the right turn lane study, excessive, so where is that right turn? Is it coming out of the development, or where are you talking about that to be located?
It would be a right turn lane into the development. Staff understands that there is a drainage kind of river pond type situation there. So we would have to work with the developer to get something that would work to meet the needs of that right turn lane. It's important to note that both the PUD ordinance and our land development code have language regarding right turn lanes with a threshold somewhere around 230, 250 trips per day.
Right.
So that's what we would be looking for.
And, I mean, my only concern there is we're doing the study with the current lot capacity, and we know we're gonna basically have more than 200 lots in the end picture. I would just assume we say that they need to do the right turn lane, because there's, almost no one has one vehicle, and it makes no sense to me that there wouldn't be 250. It seems logical that that would be the case, regardless of a study.
So if the board would like to impose the requirement for a right turn lane, you may do so, and whenever it goes back through DRC for that final plat review, we will look to see if that information is provided.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have a few things. Number one, I'd like to have a discussion and the board chime in. When the Planning Commission makes recommended changes, I would appreciate, this commissioner would appreciate if you went ahead and put them in there. You can redline them, you can underline them, you can do whatever, but it's not fair to ask us to do a second round of recommendations on top of what they voted to recommend. So unless the commissioners have a different opinion, we'll discuss it or whatever, I would like to see you make those additions to the report that you give the board from them of the actual recommendations that were made and things that they added to it. The last thing I want to do is come in here and try to build the whole wheel over again now that it's gone through the step of the Planning Commission, and if we miss something, then we drop the ball. So I would like to see that in the future. I'd like to see that the changes recommended and in a form that we can then make the motion. And if we want to include some additional, we don't necessarily mean to not include what they've already done, but if we miss one in the motion that you just asked for, then we've dropped the ball. So I would like to see that in the future. Also, I don't think that we have enough, for a better word to say, and I don't think we have enough teeth built in this to make sure that the developer doesn't start this project, start getting it to a point to where they're hooking up additional units or whatever, and then they just turn around, walk away, and we've got a bond. That bond, as you well know, is not going to cover what we have to do from now to the end of time if we have to take over this wastewater plant. I understand from emails that I've received from some of the residents in the area and some people that are that know what's going on down there, that the existing plan is not exactly 100% at the current time. So is one of the recommendations or one of the ironclad things that we have in here, I know we're going to request that they have a bond, but that bond's got to cover finishing all the additional roads. If there's a second phase that's coming, it's also got to include a bunch of things other than just the wastewater system. And the last thing I want is the county to end up owning that wastewater and water plant over there. It'll be the same thing that we're dealing with out at Buena Vista on the river out there that's costing the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I don't want that to take place. The developer needs to come in and put that plan in place and to have an ironclad backup in case they walk away, that somebody else is going to take care of it. And I don't exactly know how to make sure that happens, but if we don't make it happen with some level of confidence that we're not going to wind up with it, this commissioner is going to vote against this. So I've got to have an ironclad way that we feel absolutely comfortable that the developer is not going to start putting in units before that existing unit is 100% up to par for the whole development, water and sewer. I didn't know that y'all wanted that too, but I'm on board with you. But I think we've got to find that. I think we've just got to find a way that if they walk away in the middle of this second phase, which is what I'm going to call it, to the Bayou Club, that they're not doing it and leaving all the people there that already with a unit that that the government's gonna have to take over, and then it's gonna not only cost a lot of money, it's on top of that, we're not gonna be able to put the resources in it that should have been put in to start with. So
Yep.
how do we do that to your satisfaction, Zach?
Yes, sir. So if I can respond to that, conditions 2 and 3 are in place to ensure just that the wastewater treatment plant is upgraded and is capable of maintaining capacity to support all units out there, both existing and the proposed 110 units. So we will be looking for that information. As Commissioner Harvey suggested, we strike the whole permit application part. We want to see the FDEP permit itself. That'll give us the numbers of the capacity that's available. And then with condition 2, showing how that wastewater plant is going to be connected to those existing and proposed developments, those new houses. Those are going to be our two kind of sureties, if you will, that this wastewater plant will be capable of supporting the entire development.
Okay, I'd like to also, if we could, build an additional layer in here that's probably not in here at the current time, that in addition to the inspections that take place from the normal authorities that would take place, that our Public Works Department also gets a chance to look at this. We want to make sure that our utility professionals agree with everybody else that it's already in, it's already adequate, and it's going to last for an extended period of time where we don't have to take it over a year and a half from now. So we can do that, can't we?
Yes, sir. So this is just the preliminary plat approval. It will come back to the Board of County Commissioners for final plat approval. And at that stage, because of the conditions that we've set in place here, you should be seeing those DEP permit with the capacity and the new system on the plat.
Yeah, I'm probably not communicating well with you, Zach. I want to make sure that we build in something that, in addition to the normal people that look at it, that our utility professionals in the county that also get a shot at looking at it too, at least to approve that it's adequately put in to the point to where, in their best opinion, we're not going to own it in 6 months because they got through a loophole at DEP or something.
So it sounds to me like we'd be looking at an 8th condition imposed by the Board of County Commissioners, which would require the wastewater system in its entirety to be reviewed by the Utilities Division of our Public Works Department.
Can we do that, JR?
Yes, sir, but can we also add, Zach, and this may be possible, that the existing Bayou Club that's currently there today gets hooked into the new wastewater plant? Because the last thing we want to do is have 2 wastewater plants down there, one failing and a new one.
Yep.
So I don't want that failing that's out of DEP compliance to hinder us in the future either. So I think both phases of that subdivision need to be included in that one plant.
And that they need to be hooked up before the new units can be hooked up to the new system. The existing units have to be hooked up to the new system too, to where it's once, excuse me, sorry about that, folks. I get a little animated when I get excited. So we need to hook up all the existing stuff to the new unit and have it operating before they can hook up their first unit to the new system.
Okay, so as long as we've got that condition in place, then we can definitely work with that. Condition 2 touched on it as far as, again, it says, final plat shall include the proposed upgrade water treatment plant with details as to how existing and proposed developments are connected.
I understand it touches on it, Zach. I don't want there to be any room for interpretation by anybody of what we're wanting to do, which means that before they hook up one new unit to the new wastewater plant, all the existing units have to be operational on the new wastewater system.
So it sounds...
It's just the right thing to do. If we need to write another comment, that's what...
You're right.
I did not hire any of these people that are clapping.
So if I'm hearing that correctly, Commissioner, it sounds like a 9th condition that would require all existing homes be connected to the new wastewater plant prior to any new home being connected to that?
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
Water and sewer.
Okay, there you go, thank you. I want that clarified.
Water and sewer.
Water and
Water
sewer.
and sewer,
Yeah,
okay.
The new plant has to be operational before, and the existing units hooked up to it before one unit can be hooked up to that plant on the new side of the proposed, property.
Yes, sir.
All right, if the commissioners agree with that. Commissioner Pickens, you were next.
Yeah, I couldn't, that's why you're the chairman, Mr. Chairman. I couldn't have said that any better. Those were the concerns of the existing systems and the service to the people in that community now, but they needed to be upgraded. So we're going to upgrade the water and the wastewater, correct? Both of them will be upgraded.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I do agree with the roads need to be repaired too, also. And also the turn lane, I'm in agreement of that. That going down Buffalo Bluff Road, it's like a lot of the county roads that we have. It's the paved road and really not much shoulder, and I believe a turn lane will really be beneficial. So that will go through that process, or can we add that in there too? I'm with that too.
Yeah, so just
Make
as
it-
a response to that, currently, condition 4 is a traffic study. If you would like to amend condition 4 to state turn lane is required, period, then we can work with that as well.
That's correct. I don't see how you can put that many additional units in there and not have a turn lane. You're gonna stop the road up every time it gets busy. You have that one on your list, future motion maker?
I do, sir. I'm doing the best I can to keep up.
Okay, and I also,
If we miss one, commissioners, when we go through the motion, please help us make sure that we have all these requirements we want added.
okay, and then also, most of the commissioners up here have had to deal with either wastewater treatment plant or a water system that, for whatever reason, was not taken care of by the developer or whoever put it in, and the state says, no, it's now the county's responsibility. So that's why I want to make sure the sustainability of this, is it continue to fall on the developer for these utilities, or did it revert back to the homeowners association at some point?
So I'd let the engineer kind of speak to this. From my understanding with plats, if those facilities are dedicated to Putnam County, then we have the responsibility to take them into our maintenance agreement. However, if that wastewater plant does not meet our wastewater plant criteria, it's going to be hard for us to maintain. We would have to essentially rebuild. So that's kind of the contentious point in speaking with Sam Willis, is there's essentially two sets of standards for a wastewater plant. Putnam County has a little bit higher of a standard. We can't make them, the developers, build a wastewater plant that meets our standards. They just have to meet the baseline requirements. As far as prolonged maintenance, I believe the developers are intending on maintaining this in perpetuity, but I don't know that any sort of legal document can enforce that. If they go bankrupt and they walk away, I don't know that a document requiring their perpetual maintenance is going to stick, so to speak.
You done for now?
Right now, I am, yeah.
That's very problematic, Zach. I don't really know what the end of this agreement is gonna look like, but I know that the one right now gives me heartburn so bad I need a roll of Tums. I think that we need to try to come up with a solution that Public Works can live with also, that makes us believe, even if it's an additional bonding step, or even if we can't make them put in a system that's as good as what the state would make the county put in, then that really gives me heartburn, because if we ever have to take it over, we've immediately got to put hundreds of thousands, if not more, dollars into this to bring it up to the standard they make us put them at. So why is it that we can't make them put in a water system that's to the level of what the state would make the county put in if we own the water system? Or is do I need to ask that question of, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Zach, I'm truly
Yes,
not.
sir. So that one, I would defer to Sam Willis on that one. I don't think he's present today. Perhaps legal counsel can chime in on, I don't necessarily think the state has specific requirements for Putnam County. I think we've enacted our own design requirements that elevates them above what the state would require.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I think the staff administration certainly understands the dilemma that you're in and the position that you want to take, and we will work with the planning department to make sure that we come up with some adequate language to bring back to the board for a future, for second reading of this or adoption of this prior to see if we can't get you to where we need to be to alleviate some of the concerns we have with this wastewater treatment.
Well, I just want everybody to know that I think this is the first round. And so if it gets approved today with the conditions that we put in it, this doesn't necessarily mean that's final conditions. That's just the conditions for it to move forward to the next step. So if we put these conditions in here now, they're gonna be put in during design, and then when it goes to development review and when it goes to the Public Works for review later on, then they can put additional steps in there to be approved at the next step in the process. Am I missing something? So,
Or we can too.
yeah, that's what I'm saying though, is that it'll go to the next step and it'll go through, and this is just basically the first step to get it started today. But we want to make sure that, in my opinion, I think we need to make sure that we put in things that we are absolutely going to require next time around, and not tell them this is the end of the list. This is just the beginning of the list. Because I think we've got to do something to require, number one, the best of our ability. We don't own that plant, and they put in a plant that's as good as what we can possibly make them put in, that will last longer, with less maintenance, and that it handles the existing community before they start hooking up the new units. If we don't make them do that, they'll start hooking up new units, and the old ones will never get hooked up anytime in the history.
We'll look at this for a technical review, make sure that we capture the things that are important to you folks here today.
Okay. Mr. Harvey, did you have another comment, sir?
I do, sir. Mr. Commando, and our chairman just touched on it a little bit, are we able to require individual bonds per individual project? Say roads might be bonded, wastewater would be bonded separately, instead of an overall bond accumulating everything inside this design. Would we be able to require separate bonds, basically?
I haven't seen it done where you require separate bonds. Traditionally, we follow what the statutory requirements are for that.
Okay. That's the only question I have, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if there's no more questions of staff at this time, we're going to start taking comments from the people in attendance today. I'm going to start with people that would like to speak. For this is aged applicant here today. You want to speak, sir? Please come forward. And if you'd state your name for that and address for the record, Bob.
All right, Robert Morgan, RGM Engineers, 65 Lewis Boulevard, St. Augustine. I'm the engineer on the project.
Yes, sir.
A lot of your questions, they're all valid questions. The difference, the state regulates all of our water and sewer as we have it. Typically within the municipalities, the controls, what's called a SCADA system, is more like it's an outside control to where you have, your utility department has a room with all the controls in it, and they can see every lift station within your system. That's a very expensive system. That's typically where the difference is in the controls, as far as, let's say, a $30,000 lift station versus a $70,000 lift station. It's just the control so that they can see what's going on. Typically on a private system, they don't require all that. The main workings of the system is still governed by the state with DEP, so it still has to have the same factions. Everything has to be the same as would a county station, minus those controls. So if for some reason something defaults or goes away, the station's still designed to the same standard, but maybe controls might have to be added. That's the only thing you would have to do. So there's where the big difference in a cost expense is. As we addressed in the planning commission, aware of all those problems, and I've been out to the site several times. And it's very valid too, which I was gonna talk to Zach, as far as prior to any building permits are issued on any of the new lots that are going on. Typically, the infrastructure is inspected, all new cleanouts, the plant be included, all within that. Prior to any building permits being issued, that should be a requirement to have. The existing system is going to be replaced. We've already talked to the owners, we're removing all of that. Gonna put new facilities in place. Have them all online prior to any building permits being issued. I think that's a big way to solve that question, because then we can't go vertical on anything until that's done. And I think that's a good way to solve it.
I think that's what we laid out this morning so far, is that we want all that in place before, yes.
Correct, and I think that's a way, and you do have a, as in most counties, there's holds on any kind of permitting in the clearance sheet process, because you still have to get a clearance sheet prior to getting a building permit. So when they make sure they meet all the setbacks and everything else, before that building permit's issued, they should be required to have all that in place.
Putnam doesn't require permits, clearance permit like St. John's does.
Right,
And
okay.
so, but we could deny a permit being issued until a certain set of circumstances comes in place like you just laid out.
That's correct. I think that's the easiest way to do that. And the intent of the owner is to provide these services. I've talked to the owners multiple times. They're aware of it. I've looked at it with Sam Willis twice. We went over and looked at it, and it's bad. It's very bad. So the intent is to replace those systems. Replace them, not fix what's there, replace those systems. And I've been working with the contractor that's been doing a lot of research on trying to figure out different ways to accomplish that. So whether or not we put in a new wastewater plant or an infiltration system, it'll be rectified. Any questions more on the utilities?
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Morgan at this time? Yes,
All right.
Mr. Wilkinson.
Can you discuss the current drainage and erosion issues that's there at the
Yes.
site?
As we talked about in planning, there's a couple of the inlets that are at the end of the road that go into the existing pond that was there. There's no homes around it now. All of that will be maintained and brought out. When it's all cleaned up, those things will be there's connections to some of those inlets that will have to be cleaned out. So that'll all be addressed when we do the new facility. We put in a new roadway and all that stuff. And as far as the turn lane goes, on that inside down there, I don't think, as far as where that canal is, it's only, was it 25 mile an hour through there? I don't think the turn lane will be that much of an issue. I was texting some of the partners on here. Is it 45? All right, well, it won't be that long. So the turn lane won't be an issue. I talked to him and he's fine with that on Buffalo Bluff. So we understand the need for that. As I did the ITE trip generations on there, and peak hour for the entire subdivision is about 130 peak hour traffic. So kind of looking at that, it's not too much more, but we understand the need for it.
Okay, Commissioner Pickens, did you have something, sir?
Unfortunately, that road becomes a racetrack.
Oh, yeah.
So that 25 would turn into 45, and that 45 is turning into 65. And there's a railroad track right there too, so definitely a turn lane is needed, so.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's gonna have to be a requirement. There's no doubt about that.
And that's fine.
You know, I'm not trying to disparage your clients at all, Bob, but historically, a lot of times, people with good intentions comes in and have problems or run out of money or different things, and they're not able to do the things that they promised or wished they could have done up front. And so we just got to make sure that when we go through this addition to this development, that we make sure that they either do what they do or they can't move forward with their new homes and their new additional residential units to this. And I think that in order to do that, I think it's only the right thing to do to try to take care of the existing residents first and do what should have been done back in the past and get them up to date before they're allowed to go forward and make profits on their new units.
That's
I think
right.
that's just the right and fair thing to do.
And that makes sense, because that happens all the time.
Yes, sir.
Developers come in, clear property, and walk away.
Well, we do this for a living. We know what we're talking about.
That's
so,
right.
yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay, is there any more questions of Mr. Morgan at this time? Thank you for coming today, Bob. Yes, sir.
On the maintenance of the existing roads that are in there, they agree that they want to go ahead and do their maintenance and repair to those as soon as they're done construction. It doesn't make any sense to try to do that prior to any construction. And then the maintenance and everything, there is a homeowner association set up with their fee assessment. So once it's developed and all the lots get going and everything's worked through and all that stuff, that homeowner association should be responsible for taking care of any maintenance, any kind of infrastructure. So that's where
I
that
don't
comes.
have a
once
problem
it's
with
done.
that at all, once you get it to 100%.
That's right.
But
Get
if
it
you're
started.
gonna go in there and tear up the existing roads to put in your new part of this subdivision, then you should be required to at least bring those up to 100% before you turn them over to the homeowners association. It's
Exactly
not,
right. That's right. I agree. Yeah, that
I
makes
swear I
sense.
didn't hire any of these people.
That makes sense. All right.
So anyhow, I think that we've got to build that in there to where we start from scratch like it was a whole new subdivision.
And that's understandable. That's right.
And then you can turn it over to them, and then they can start assessing properties to maintain future problems and not have one facing them the day that they take them over.
That's right. I agree. There was an owner representative here. Did he want to talk? You want to talk? He's good.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Is there any further questions of him?
I have-
Bob, go ahead.
Can you address the storage units? It looks like there's some utility, I guess some of the homeowners are concerned that you're removing the storage units.
Well, within the PUD on that said, there's nothing defined as far as storage areas and storage units, but we can address that with them. But there's nothing defined as far as those go. As far as the original PUD doesn't have any allotments in there for storage.
So there was none in the original one, is what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. So all the original stuff didn't have that in there.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the type deal, though, that a friend of mine used to tell me years ago, that when you're gonna build sidewalks for a school, what you should actually do is just not put them in for the first year and let the students make paths. And then everywhere there's a path, go put the sidewalk in later. And the reason I use that analogy is just because there was no original storage room in this area, the residents have used a portion of this for a storage area throughout these years. And so it's basically, they've made the path for the sidewalk. We just need to try to come up with a small area if we can to continue letting them use storage, because I don't believe the homeowners association allows them to put certain things in their driveways
That's
or in
correct.
front of their house. You need to have a little area over there for them to put it if you can find the room.
We can try that.
I don't know that I'm into requiring that, but I sure think it would be the right thing to do it.
The new wastewater system that's going in is going to be much more compact than what the existing system is. Right now, we have 2 leach fields. It's a massive system, antiquated, it's old. So that's probably going to be reduced by a quarter what that size is. So within that area, there could be some concessions there.
Yeah, maybe
But
if
that's a
you
big
could
deal.
ask your people if they would consider using that as part of a new storage area where, I mean, I know that the residents that live there don't want to start having to go down to a storage yard and putting their stuff in a
That's right.
storage yard down the street. That'd be a pain. So if you could find some kind of storage, I think that it would really help a lot with the
I
project.
think with the new condensing, that system's going to make a big difference.
Okay, good
It's going to
deal.
free up a lot of space.
Thank you.
All right.
Is there any other questions of Mr. Morgan at this time? Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this? Favor? Okay. I've got a list of them here this morning. Let's see, Bayou Club. I think this is Bayou Club. Bayou Club, Bayou Club, Bayou Club, Bayou Club, Bayou Club, okay? I'll call every single person on the list. The only thing I request is that we don't say the same thing over and over and over again. I promise you we'll hear it one time. We'll sit here as long as it takes to listen to every single person in this room that wants to speak. I'd like to request that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes apiece if we can. I'm not going to hold you to that hard, but I would really request that you try not to say the same thing over and over and over. We'll hear you, I promise you, whoever says it. So with that being said, I'm going to start with Mr. Kerry Rowell. Carrie, even though I have your card, if you could give your name and address for the record, please. By the way, it's good to see you again. It's been a little while.
Nice to see you. My name is Kerry Rowell, at 343 East Buffalo Bluff Road, just down the road from where this development's going in. And I want to encourage the commission, y'all have gone into the details and done a great job with that. But let's take a broader view. Is this going to be good for Putnam County or not? Putnam County suffers from economic stagnation compared to the rest of the state of Florida. And I can prove that to you by just looking at financial services. You can assess the health of a community, the economic health of a community, by looking at the strength and weaknesses of its financial services. Years ago, Crescent City had 3 banks. Now it's got 1. East Palatka had 2. Now it's got 1. Interlochen had 2 banks. Now it's got 1. There was 2 banks in the area of Palm and Krill. Now there's none. That is a clear indication that this county, compared to other counties in Florida, we're going backwards. We're not keeping up with the times. And the reason that's happening is we've made a lot of short-sighted economic decisions by allowing more and more low-cost, high-density housing in our county compared to other areas. We don't need more mobile homes in Putnam County. We certainly don't need them on Buffalo Bluff. Look at the number that are already there. It is, you know, it's going to be a lot more traffic. It's going to be a lot more citizens that aren't going to be paying enough taxes to support the services that they're going to need. So I encourage you, you know, the details are wonderful, but look back and take a broader view and just say to yourselves, is this really going to help Putnam County in the long term? Is it going to improve the demographics of our county? If we're patient, good things are coming. You know, there's a lot of land that's been bought up by Johnny Morris down there in the Willaca area. There's going to be some significant upscale development that is going to be coming to our area, I believe, in the near future. Why let this property, which is right along Dunn's Creek and Murphy's Creek area, why let it be developed in mobile homes when it can be developed into upper income, single-family homes? I don't understand why we keep making those same mistakes over and over and over again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rowell. Commissioner Adams, act.
Yeah. The financial services thing is an interesting concept. Maybe we can talk about that offline. We need to accommodate housing of all types in our plan overall for the whole county. And the places to expand like housing is where there is like housing. So it makes sense right now. Someone can put a mobile home on just about any lot in the county. So that would be where we would address that first. Putting them where like type housing already exists, I think makes sense to me. And adjusting the land development code in a way that allows us to start accommodating that in non-developed parts of the county that don't have that type of housing already makes more sense to me. But that's just my comment in reference to what you're saying.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, I'd like to ask Frank Jones to come forward.
Morning.
Morning.
Mr. Turner, thank you. Thank you for all of your comments.
Put your name and address for the record.
Frank Jones, 114 Bayou Drive, Satsuma, Florida, HOA president of the Bayou Club. Mr. Turner, thank you for your comments, sir. Thank you for hearing from us and from hearing us. A lot of my colleagues are going to talk about some of the other issues that we're all worried about. The erosion, the fact that the owners still, even after being mandated to contact us, have not. We have no contact with these people. The storage, everything else, okay, that'll be covered by other folks. What I want to talk about is, if you will, the smoking gun of what we're really, really, really concerned about. These current owners that you're looking to give a plat for 110 homes, they pulled 4 permits for 4 homes last March. To date, 15 months later, no end in sight. Throughout this whole process, we've had to deal with garbage blowing around. We've had to deal with, right now, the grass is again 3 feet high around these properties. No garage doors, in some cases, no exterior doors. We have snakes that have been spotted. We've got all kinds of varmints. We've got rodents. So, quite frankly, if they can't complete 4 homes in 15 months, we're looking at 110 homes. If you extrapolate that, I mean, is the Bayou Club now going to become this wasteland for the next, 10, 20 years? I mean, we're concerned because at every juncture, at every time, every point, we've been misled or just not contacted. So, again, I've heard a lot of very, very positive comments today by the county. Thank you for all of that. Just think about us. Think about us. I personally both invited and challenged the other board to come. Look at where we live. See what we have to deal with. Why do we have to put up with trash? Why can't these folks come in and do what they say they're going to do, stick to existing codes, time frames, and build like they should? And the other thing is, although it's been said that the roads will be fixed when the construction is finished, again, plays to the same thing, is okay, when is the construction going to be finished? When all 110 units are in? Where do we do that? How do we gauge it, okay? Knowing that we're 15 months for 4 houses, when does that end? Okay, now, we've been told that these new homes will be used, they're going to use what's called a construction entrance. Well, good luck with that, okay? We don't have guards out there that can stop these trucks from coming in. And our roads are in horrible shape. They're bad shape, okay? And I will add that I had contacted the owners about 13, 14 months ago and basically begged them to tell us what their plans were going to be so we could fix our roads, and we got no response. So at every juncture, every point, every turn, Bayou Club, myself, colleagues on the board have reached out and begged with no response. But anyway, folks, thank you for your time. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That's actually a pretty good, valid point he just made, that how do we make sure that they actually take care of the roads during construction before they make, at the end, they bring them back up to 100% before they turn them back over, because if there's no time frame in this for how long it takes to do it. So how do we put something in there that says that they have to maintain the road to a certain level during construction? Because, I don't know how long it takes, and I don't really care, as long as they bring the current roads, or they keep them in a good passable and a good drivable condition while the new construction's going on the new stuff. And then at the end, they've got to go in through the bond that we're going to make them have and redo the roads. So I'm okay with that part, but that's a very good point. The way that we have it set up now is basically they can go in there and just destroy all the roads and not do anything, and then maybe never build the last house, and they never have to pave the old road. If we put in there that, I'm just playing the devil's advocate a little here, so if they never finish their subdivision, then they never have to pave the roads. If that's the case, then
That's our concern.
it might keep them from ever paving the road or bringing it up. So how do we build something in there that makes them do something as we go?
Well, I mean, it's part of the conditions of the project where they wouldn't get a CO, and when they provide the as-builts, they couldn't get the CO to complete the project.
But if they're only doing a part of this as they go, and they're only doing, say, 5 houses at the time out of the 100, they can get COs on them as they go, and if they never get to the end of their build-out or the end of their project, then they don't have to come back and do the 100% maintenance of the road to turn it over to the homeowners association. They could attempt to turn it over early and say, if y'all want your roads better, do it yourself now. So, I mean, it could be done, because if we require them only at the end to do 100% maintenance on the roads before they turn it over, if they never get to the end, they'll never have to do the maintenance. And theoretically, it could be years of them doing construction traffic through the existing roads and nobody maintaining them. I mean,
But as they move forward, there's still people from the county that have to come out and approve different stages of the project. So and Mr. Young was just talking about requiring them to use or build and stabilize the construction road first, which is fine, but I mean, we all know that people are gonna end up using the other roads as well. So as long as we're involved in the process for kind of reviewing and maintaining as the project goes on, then we should have a handle on that at every step of the project.
wonder, could we, they do have a separate construction entrance, I think, designed into this project, don't they?
There is one, sir, but you can't really monitor it being used. I mean,
Yeah, but usually, I'm in the construction business outside of here, and I'm telling you straight up, if somebody tells me not to let my guys drive in that road over there, don't let me catch one of them driving in that road over there. So, you know, it can be done through the contractors on site to say, y'all cannot use that access road. A lot of subdivisions that contractors work in require you to use a certain access. The paper mill even does it. You can use gate number so-and-so for this project, and that's it. Now, they have full-time people watching it, but a lot of the subdivisions don't, and don't let your guys get caught on the wrong road in there. So there are some things, it's not 100%, but if they require them, most people will do their best to comply. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you.
Again, going back to my question a minute ago, I think an individual bond would satisfy the requirement, you know?
Yeah, my only concern is what Mr. Jones just said, which is an absolute valid point, is that if our bond requires them to step in at a certain point and use that, and either fix that issue or utilize the bond, if they don't fix the issue and they never reach that point, then they never have to do it.
Well, maybe we could put a time limit versus a construction. We could do something in that.
Or maybe even build something in that says that they have to maintain the roads at least at a 80% level throughout the project.
Right.
I mean, maybe, Commissioner Adams, did you have something, sir?
I guess, just because I don't know, how are these roads maintained today? Like, who's responsible for them today?
Through
Is
the
that-
homeowners association, I believe.
So,
I don't believe they're county-maintained roads.
so in the end, the builder at the end is gonna fix what the homeowners association was supposed to be maintaining all along
Well, but
and make it
the
new.
problem is in
throughout
the
the holes.
new part of it, the way this supposedly works in a homeowners association environment, the ones that I've, had dealings with in the past, is basically you get a road that's at 100% or close to it, and then you start giving assessments every year, and you bank that assessment to help with the mowing and what have you as you go, but hopefully you're getting enough money to where when the road goes bad or needs resurfacing, you can have the money in the bank at that time to resurface that road.
Right.
So, but if in this situation, they've been there a long time and they've been collecting it on theirs, but there's a new whole section that's being done out there, if they destroy the roads in the existing one to build a new one, then it's up to them to do it. That's not fair, because if they never did the new addition, then they wouldn't destroy the existing.
No, I
roads
agree with
trying to
that
build
part.
it up.
But
So-
the comments and the stuff that I read in emails and stuff was that the roads are terrible already.
Right, but
So are they required to maintain them to the level of, and someone made that comment here today, Are they required to maintain to the level that was existed before they got there, or to brand new? It sounded like they were gonna go and brand new everything at the end. So given that, as long as they don't make it worse, I think,
It's a good point.
yeah, I think that we don't need to put a timetable on it, because as long as they don't damage it further, they're only required, they're doing that as an add-on to make it more palatable that they're coming in there, in my opinion. That's what it sounds like to me, because I don't think they're required to redo every road in a subdivision, because they're adding on to it. That's just something they're doing to make it more palatable to everybody.
Especially if they had a construction entrance. That's
Right,
nice.
right.
Okay. Okay, next I'm going to ask Alexander Hardy to come forward. He does, yes. Very good point. Mr. Hardy, if you would give us your name and address for the record, please, sir.
It's Alexander Hardy, 156 Lake Margot Drive, Satsuma. And I have a video presentation to present.
Yeah, start us 3 minutes over again, if you would, whenever IT catches up.
I didn't figure you'd mind, Mr. Chairman.
I've tried.
Could we take a 5-minute recess while we work out the IT part of this gentleman's video? Do it in another meeting, or just go ahead and do it today? That's good, whatever you want. Okay. I'll remove that presentation and we'll do it again in 3 weeks. Does that suit you?
There we go.
Whenever, I don't think I could adjourn this public hearing in the middle of it to do the presentation. I'm sorry, if I'd have known I would have done it before the We'll do better. Sorry, Libby.
Let's. Okay, so they should be good. I just got to move it over here. Why is that not going through? I'm trying to move it on that TV over there.
Can I borrow your blanket there, Commissioner?
So are you, is this, for this video, are we just trying to,
No, it's on here.
oh, no, I put it on here already. This is your video?
Yeah, that's the video,
Yep,
yes.
okay,
And
so-
this should be sound with it.
There should be, I don't know if we'll be able to get the sound.
Well, then it's useless.
Are you talking in the video?
Yes, I'm talking in the video.
Yeah, I don't know.
I brought this in last week, and she plugged it in somewhere, and it ran.
Well, it runs, but the problem is I'm not getting any audio from the actual, I'm not hearing any audio. But as you hear, like watch, if you listen, right?
Yeah?
For example, there is audio, watch. You can hear that, right?
Yeah?
But the audio in the video,
You haven't picked it up somehow.
it's right here, watch. I have the audio here. Audio is maxed out, but
Hey, it worked last week.
I don't know. I mean, there is audio, and the audio is going to there. You know what?
Can we cuddle up together there, Mr. Chairman?
No, so this is just right. You need to just.
The audio might be working, but it might be
You need to
very
speak
low.
more, get
Because
upset,
it's hard to
move
hear right
around
now because
some, or
everybody's
get more
talking.
animated or something.
So,
Tried to bum a blanket, but.
so when you're ready,
We got more of
what you
them.
can do is push this button.
All right? But if nobody can hear it, it's useless.
They might be able to hear it.
Hey,
once-
last week it worked, and I
I'll
was
call them last,
through the
so I
office
don't
on the
know.
other side.
I'll
and we
ask them
heard
at
it.
that for the Bayou Club.
I'll tell you what. Let me go. Let me hear if I can hear it on here. It may not just be that loud. So give me 1 second, okay?
Okay.
You know, I don't,
and single-family residential area development B in blue. Area A has a maximum of 140 dwelling units, and Area B a maximum of 80. To date, 102 units have been developed in Area A and none in Area B. This leaves 38 units to be developed in Development Area A. Also shown is the utility area and the conservation area and wetlands in green. The application proposes to develop 110 units in Area A. Together with the 102 units already developed in Area A, this means 112 units will be developed. The PUD allows for a total of 216 units in Area A and B combined. This would leave 4 units to be developed in Area B. Okay, this is the next slide. The Area A has increased by adding the utility area, reclassifying it as residential. The utility area was originally designated as a storage area for boats, trailers, cars, trucks, campers, and other recreational vehicles and mini warehouse units. The present residents enjoy the use of this storage facility. The question: can a developer drastically change the PUD to the detriment of the existing residents? My comments on the proposed plans. The application develops roads and lots in the conservation area and wetlands. The lots up against the rail reserve a rail reserve are just a slum. Some of the houses will be 60 feet from the center line of the track and others 100 feet. The drainage needs to be looked at by a hydrological expert to determine what happens to the pond during a hurricane-force storm and not as the pond is now. We seem to have got behind here. The question: why does the developer not develop the Bio Club as it was proposed in the original PUD? Extend Lake Margot Drive and Pine Lake Drive to the end of the pond and build the 38 units that were allowed in the Area A, and then develop Area B, the 80 units that can be developed in Area B. This proposal, the original proposal, has significantly less roads, significantly less earthworks, and will cost far less than the proposed 110 units crammed into Area A. This raises the question: what is the developer's plan for Area B? That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Hardy at this time? Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Next, I would like to ask Mr. Bart Sandoval. And, you know, I'm going to let you speak as long as you want to, I am, but I would really appreciate it if you'd keep your comments to 3 minutes. I really do.
Just gonna close this real quick. Sorry.
My time hasn't started.
Just wanted to give him this device.
Mark Sandoval, 132 Pine Lake Drive, Satsuma. I'm the treasurer for the Homeowners Association. First, I think everybody received our letter and petition on that, and I appreciate all of you looking at it and knowing what our concerns were. You could tell by the last meeting, we had 53 of our residents here, and we have a bunch of folks here today also So you could tell what our concern level is. And it's mostly about this infrastructure. I think one of you mentioned, and I'll give an example. The storage on there is one thing. That is set up, and in that petition, there's a map that shows what the existing storage is. Well, the proposed thing is that comes away. We as you said, we set the assessments. The board sets the assessments every year. That is income. That would be lost income. To say that we'll find you another place, that happened 2 years ago with the rezoning, and then that was dropped. That was going to be, oh yeah, we're going to move it over here, which was wetlands. Anyway, we cannot set proper assessments with the roads, not so much the water. I mean, everything that we maintain in that community is based on assessments that we charge the homeowners. The nice part about living there is that they are reasonable assessments. We charge for the storage units. There's 114 storage units right now. That is in the PUD. That is already there. So this was a surprise to us to see this come out. It's just that we have to make these assessments. Now, just in light of this, we just met with, and we knew him from before, but we haven't spoken with him because he hasn't been out. But we spoke with the owner, Anthony Fratiani. And one of the things that we put in our petition also was that there should be required a letter from the homeowners associating stating that we have met with the developers and that we are in agreement and that it should be submitted to you. I think this was done during the rezoning thing that happened a couple of years ago, and that we can work these things out. There will be things that we're responsible. Like you say with the bond, you know, if that road falls apart, we're responsible. These are private roads. You know, the clubhouse, you know, it holds 85 people. Well, now we've got 200 more. There's 119 signatures just on that petition. So, I mean, everything is going to double. Things like as simple as the mailboxes. That whole thing has to be done. You've added now how many more new things? Entrances in and out of that, the marina, the fishing dock, all of the amenities. If you look at the existing 4 homes that they have on there right now, I mean, there's one picture of a diagram of a home and 15 pictures of all the amenities that our community has to offer for these folks. So, as I said, we just met with Anthony Fratiani, who's the owner, and like I said, we have met with him before, and he's agreed that we should sit down and talk. And I would hope that one of these requirements is that prior to now and the next for this approval is that we submit a letter to the commissioner stating that all of these infrastructure things like assessments, how do you budget unless you know? How can we tell these people, we can't. This is an elderly community and they've lived there for so long and enjoyed all the things that are there. So hopefully you will consider that assessment, that meeting, and a letter requirement from us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Next, Commissioner, okay. Next is is it Gary Rozier? Okay. If you'd give us your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Gary Rozier, 155 Bayou Drive. I'm on the board also. Most of the people have already hit on the stuff I'm going to talk about. I want to say thank you for the comments that you have put in already. We have, I think it's 24 marina boat slips. If we get 110 more people, we aren't going to have enough places for boats. We are a boating community. Also, the storage, they mentioned taking out the old sewage plant and using that as our storage area. That's not even 1/3 of what we use. Like I said, we have like 96 storage places, and I think right at 90 of them are being taken up right now. So we do use it. They even gave the map at their sales office of the storage units. So they were planning on it. Why they took them out, I don't know. Also, the roads, we had tried to talk to them last year about the roads, to get the roads repaired, see if they want, what their plans were to go in and maybe meet us halfway or whatever. And that didn't work. We couldn't get a hold of them. So we said, all right, we'll do the roads ourselves, and that contract fell apart due to the contractor, not our side. We had every intention of doing the roads, and then they come up with this, and we'll say, well, we'll wait. It's not that we don't want to fix the roads. We want the roads fixed. One of the worst spots in the neighborhood for as far as roads is right in front of my house. So I would definitely want that fixed. They don't seem, I didn't even know that they had talked to Mr. Fiotti. So that's news to me. It just must have happened this morning or yesterday afternoon. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, I'm going to ask Miss Sandy Rowell if she wants to come forward.
Thank you. My name is Sandy Rowell. I live at 343 East Buffalo Bluff Road. I'm almost at the end of the road. One of the things I'm concerned about is the traffic. Your idea of a turn lane is kind of good and kind of not. I'm not really quite sure where the turn lane would go because there is a culvert there that goes over. Then you have the sales office. Then you have the road into the club. Then you have a fountain, and then you have the road that they're talking about, these people using, the new homes that actually comes right out at the railroad crossing where we cross over. So there's going to be an awful lot of tearing up to get a turn lane in there to begin with. So I'm not really quite sure how that will work. The second thing that my traffic concern is Highway 17. Coming out of Buffalo Bluff, we are on a very blind curve. I know for a fact within the last 2 years there have been at least 2 fatalities between the fruit stand on 17 and Mima's restaurant. About a couple years ago, there was a fatality at the end of our street, at the end of Buffalo Bluff and 17. It's just a dangerous curve. It really is. It's totally blind. When I have been going north on Highway 17, turning it left into Buffalo Bluff, I have had to go back into traffic going straight. I have had to blow my horn because as people are coming south and someone is turning right onto Buffalo Bluff, the people behind them tend to run over and get into the turn lane. It's going to be a head-on collision. It already has been on several occasions. So that's a very big concern that hasn't been addressed, and I'd like for you to think about that also. So, and I do appreciate all of the concern that y'all have been showing for the current residents. It really does show a lot of concern. I appreciate it. Mr. Adamczak, when you were running for office, you called our house, and we spoke to you extensively for well over 30 minutes. And it seems like you've kind of changed your mind on mobile homes, but that's okay.
Thank you, Miss Sandy. Thank you for coming today. Next, I'd like to call Patty Hutchinson. If you would give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Commissioner and the board. My name is Patty Hutchison, 107 Bayou Drive. I had spoke last time about the current utilities are inadequate. I'm glad you all realize that the sanitary is not adequate, but none of you have mentioned the current lift station. We had mentioned that at the meeting before, that we had to get pumper trucks and everything, and some of it overflowed down a concrete channel into a pond. The pond has an outfall into Murphy's Creek, which goes right into the St. Johns River. So you had raw sewage bacteria going right into the St. Johns River. Do I need to go over to the St. Johns Water Management District and let them know that when our current infrastructure is inadequate, that this is happening? And you had spoken that who would be responsible? You've mentioned, yes, I'm glad you've mentioned water and the sewage, but the lift station that goes to the sewage plant was not mentioned today. Also, yes, I had a concern about the old ordinance 9120 states Exhibit B, a site plan dated September 9th, 1991 for the Bayou Club PUD is attached as a 24 by 48. Other individuals have tried to obtain this document. It's either missing or we can't get it. That would state, again, what was mentioned is the current storage, and Mr. Alec showed originally that there was going to be some units across the channel. Everything is now getting crammed into that one side of the units. And it was also, okay, and I'm glad the owners finally contacted, because that was also a stipulation last meeting, is that they were supposed to contact us prior to this meeting, and they just did it Friday. How are we going to have good transparency there? But he also said that he stated that he loved our community and would make it look very nice. Well, he would keep the trees. Well, if you're going to clear cut alongside the Amtrak, because there is 4 foot of elevation, you can't keep trees if you're going to have houses going up against there. So there's going to be no sound barrier or beautiful between the Amtrak and that. And he was saying he'd love to keep trees. Well, live oaks have shallow roots, so your drip line you have to accommodate for that. So there's no way you're going to get all those units in there and save trees. If they try to save a tree, it may die in a couple of years because they have to have a root protected zone. I have worked at an engineering firm and we deal with that right now. But I thank everybody's concern. I know you have a hard job. And all of you should care about what we care about, is the health and safety of our community in Putnam County. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I have another one here, and I'm not sure if it's for this case or not. Mrs. Susan Shandley, are you for this case or another one? Okay. All right. Is there anybody else that would like to speak today for or against this particular issue? Okay, well, I'll close the public participation part of this, and Chair will hear further discussion and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, during the break, we had staff came over and grabbed some of my notes. So if it pleases the chairman, would it be okay to kind of summarize what the notes are by staff right now?
Yeah, make sure you got them covered. Yeah. All the things we discussed today.
Appreciate you trying to read my writing, too.
Thank you for requesting that clarification, Commissioner. So we were trying to compile the conditions that we've kind of discussed today. So we would have conditions 1 and 2 as recommended by staff. Condition 3, we would strike or permit application, whichever is available, which would then require the FDEP permit to be in place for the wastewater system. Condition 4, we would strike pretty much entirely and make it to where a right turn lane conforming to Putnam County access standards will be required prior to approval for final plat. That would simply be on the final plat. It would not necessarily mean built. Condition 5 is staying the same as recommended by staff. Condition 6 would be all roads will be repaired subsequent to construction of new units. Condition 7 would be the existing wastewater plant shall be upgraded to account for both existing and new dwelling units. Condition 8, all existing homes shall be connected to the water and the wastewater before any new homes are connected. Condition 9, the water and sewer shall be provided to both new plants on entire subdivision.
Okay, on the one that where they can't hook up any additional ones, I think that we need to put in there that no permits will be issued for additional units until the existing units are hooked up. That's how you put the teeth in that one. In other words, we put it in there. I think we can do that, can't we? That we will not issue permits for the new units till they've done what they've agreed to do on the existing units.
So for condition 8, you'd rather it be all existing homes shall be connected to water and wastewater before any new homes are permitted?
The new system.
connected to the new water and wastewater systems.
All the existing one needs to be on the new wastewater system before they get to build any new homes on the new subdivision. I think that's only the right and fair thing to do.
Can we ensure the applicant is okay with these conditions?
I'm gonna ask him in a minute, but if he's not, then I vote no, so he can take his pick. So,
Mr. Chairman?
I don't think that's a request that's not fair. I just don't. He's got, they've got to put in this system anyhow. It's not like we're forcing them to put in an additional system. We're asking them to put it in when it's most beneficial to the people that are there.
Okay, so condition 8 now reads, all existing homes shall be connected to new water and new wastewater systems before any new homes are connected to the new systems.
Okay, would you read 7 again for me, please?
Currently, we have it as the existing wastewater plant shall be upgraded to account for both existing and new dwelling units.
Yeah, are they proposing, Bob, could you walk back up here just a second? I hate to make you, I just had a quick question for you. Are they proposing that they upgrade the existing plant or that they put in a new plant to replace the existing plant?
We are replacing the existing plant. We're not gonna, the existing system cannot be upgraded. It's bad. It's,
Okay, so it doesn't need to say that, Zach. It needs to say that the new plant will be in place and operational before, not that the existing system will be operational. Because they're gonna rip out the existing system and put in a new plant, so it needs to be operational before.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
We also talked about the Public Works Department having the ability to look over that plant to make sure it's a viable product.
Yeah, I think, can we just build that into the DRC order when it goes to, because they're on the Development Review Committee, could you just make sure, JR, that we have that in there before this moves forward, that we actually get to review their plan and what have you to make sure it meets y'all's approval?
Yes, sir, it'll be there, and we'll have opportunity to review it in the technical review portion of the construction.
Right, okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I heard one more that didn't get brought up was the current water retention area needs to be upgraded and maintained. I had written that down, and I thought that was a conversation we had up here.
that's gonna be all part of the, when we develop the rest of the system, it will all be part of that system.
But it
Yeah,
could be
it's
a
all
requ-
part, yeah, as far as upgrade, there's no upgrade to it, it's just gonna be clean because it'll flow now. Because right now, there's no flow on on 2 of those inlets, they're a dead end. They don't go anywhere because of the future development. So they're just a dead end. So with the new drainage system in there, those will be part of the new drainage that they'll flow. Because right now, there's no flow.
You're not in opposition if we ask you to make sure it's cleaned and maintained and.
Oh, not at all. Yeah,
Okay.
not at all. We can just clean the existing inlets. That's not a big deal, because they're
So
gonna
we'd
be
like
clean.
to add that is make sure that the current water retention area has been upgraded, if necessary, maintained and cleaned to provide the adequate water retention.
Okay, real quick, I want to clarify or condition 7. We've revised it to the new wastewater plant shall be in place and in operation for existing and new dwelling units.
Yeah.
For the existing units need to be online before they can start getting permits for the new units.
Right, and we've got that for condition 8.
Okay.
Does that include the water also?
Yeah, water and sewer.
Okay.
Condition 8 is water and wastewater. Condition 7 is wastewater.
Okay, well, y'all are you're gonna put in a new new water plant too, or just a wastewater plant?
The water plant needs to be upgraded.
Okay, so they're gonna upgrade the water plant. They're going to replace the wastewater plant.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, will that take care of that lift station that overflowed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's
And what was the
that's a receiving lift station. that
Part
pumps
of, that's
into the
part of
plant.
the new system is gonna be replaced.
And the condition relating to the drainage improvements? What was that?
That was where they're going to redo the pond and the drainage structure. That's gonna be taken care of as part of the, when it goes to DRC, they're gonna do all the technical reviews on this and what have you, and all that's gonna have to be done. So it's not gonna hurt a thing to put it in here to make sure it's done, because they're going to have to do it as part of the review process anyhow, so.
And we want that retention areas to be upgraded, cleaned, and maintained before the issuance of new building permits.
I think that would be the correct thing to do, wouldn't you, Bob?
Right, well, there's 2 ponds out there now. There's an existing system there's 2 ponds that were built in the original development. The one within the existing homes, that's functional, that's there. It's the inlets from the western edge that are connected to the pond that's there now was dug out for the new development. So from that point needs to be maintained, because that's where a lot of erosion's happening. There's no sod, there's nothing on
I'm
the
not
side.
in disagreement to that, and that's what they'll come up with when it gets to Development Review Committee. They'll decide that, because Commissioner Adams' act hit the nail on the head earlier that the developer needs to bring everything up to standards that's gonna be affected by the new portion of this subdivision, but it's not necessarily up to the developer to go back, a new developer to go back and fix the existing stuff if it's not going to impact the existing stuff. He is gonna impact all the wastewater, water, the existing drainage, the portion of the drainage that drains the new section or whatever. The maintenance on the other stuff is stuff that the homeowners association is, if it's set up to maintain, should be maintaining anyhow. It's not fair to ask the developer to do stuff that he's not gonna affect whatsoever. So there has to be a happy medium here of some kind, but we just need to make sure by what we've done this morning, put all the utilities in, make sure that all the drainage that they're gonna affect is in, make sure they fix any roads they damage, make sure any of that. Then if we get all that done, then I think we have a fair agreement. That's just my opinion.
And then Commissioner Harvey, if you could clarify, condition number 9, I copied from your notes. It stated water and sewer shall be provided to both new plants on entire subdivision.
Well, I think we accomplished that, so
Okay,
we've already
with
got that.
conditions 7 and 8.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, Zach, which one addresses the roads? Is that one in there?
That's number 2.
2?
No, wait a minute.
It would be condition 6.
4. Isn't that 4?
No, sir, 4 is the turn lane. So I can
4 is
run
a turn
through all
lane.
of those conditions if you would like. Would you like me to go through all the conditions that we have? Okay.
No, just answer Commissioner Pickens' question, which one addresses the road issue that he was wanting to address?
The existing, the new roads and the existing roads, not the turn lane.
It simply states, at this point, all roads will be repaired subsequent to construction of new units.
So they'll repair the roads before they start construction of the new units?
Before the new units go
After.
vertical.
Subsequent is after, but we can do it before.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. We need to, thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Pickens. We do need to build something in to where if they damage the current roads or they don't keep the current roads up to standards that they're gonna be using that affects their development, then they need to go fix those roads or they need to do them. But it doesn't necessarily mean that if they've got a construction entrance and nobody's gonna be using the roads, that they should have to go back and repave the existing roads. That's not their job, it's the homeowners association's job. So we got to be fair here along with trying to build in where no damages are done to the current people. It's also got to have a balance, like Commissioner Adams' act said, of what's fair here. And what's fair here is that if they damage it and they're responsible for it, they fix it as they do it. So I don't know how you build that in unless you do it during Development Review Committee, that you put something in at that point that just basically says if you damage a road, you got to fix the road in the existing portion as well as the new portion.
I'll tell you, when we come back, we're gonna have a second reading for this, correct, before it's finalized?
Yeah.
I'm looking
Real
at the
quick,
map.
if we approve today, then it just goes consent agenda. There wouldn't be a second hearing on the matter.
Yeah, but we could pull it if there was some additions to it, but Bob, I wouldn't recommend that we try to bring something back later on and, you know, and try to do this again. I'd just soon not have another full-blown hearing on it, even though we will if the residents want to have it. We'll pull it from the consent agenda. I guess my comment would be that if you've got an idea, it'd probably be best that you say it today on one way or the other. If there's something that your owner is absolutely gonna not wanna do, or something that you know he doesn't mind doing, and he's here, he can throw a book at you or something if he needs to, so,
I think that's reasonable as far as, like you were talking about, the existing roadway, if they're affected during the construction. But I'll do my best during the DRC phase to have a traffic map to where we're directing our contractors to use this route, which of course will be towards the main entrance and off to the left when you look at a map. And I'll go ahead and, so you can put a condition in there for the construction plans to have that traffic flow, to keep them off the existing roads as best we can.
and even if you had to get a temporary driveway permit to put in a different driveway just during construction or whatever, that would keep people completely out of there at all with any of their construction vehicles.
Correct, and that's not unheard of to be asked for before, that's fine. Just gotta try to be careful of trees. There's a lot of trees, our developer doesn't wanna clear cut this, there's some beautiful trees out there, so.
Yes.
But there's a lot of big oaks along that road, so we'll try to avoid those.
So I've amended condition 6, if you all would like to, voice in on this. It states now, the developer shall be responsible for repairing and/or replacing existing roads if those roads are damaged or deteriorated due to the use during construction. It continues to say all roads will be repaired subsequent to construction of new units. So we can leave that, so after the last house is built, then they would go in and resurface them.
I'm hoping during DRC that y'all can actually come up with a plan to make sure that they don't wait until all the things completely built out before they go back and start working on the roads. If they damage them during the time, they need to, within a very good amount of, a very quick amount of time, they need to go in and fix them, not wait in case they ever build. Like I said earlier, trying to play the devil's advocate, they'd never built the last house, they never had to fix the road. That's what we got to make sure that they can't do.
That's right.
So, okay, so is everybody good at this point? Any more questions for Bob?
I have one more question, and if I missed this during this presentation, I apologize. The existing wastewater and water plant, are they gonna be redone even if this project does not move forward, does not get approved? Because evidently, if I'm missing something, please, 'cause this is one of the longest meetings we've had, the wastewater treatment center doesn't seem like it's adequate for what they have now, from the lift station to whatever, and it doesn't sound like, if somebody in their email said they didn't have adequate water pressure now in some locations, so it must not be adequate, or something's wrong. It may be where it goes to their house, I don't know. So that's what I'm just wondering, is if this doesn't go forward, what happens?
As a blunt reply, that would probably, the homeowner association would be responsible for doing that.
Okay.
As current.
Hold it now, wait a minute.
As current. If it
They
doesn't
said
get
as,
approved. So, as the developer, if it doesn't get approved, then there's no incentive for the developer to, when you do this, because it's a homeowner association supposed to have the money in the coffers to take care of that.
I think it would, I really think it would be,
Hey, wait.
okay. I'm not gonna have this. I'll listen to every one of you that wants to come up here 3 minutes at a time, but I'm not gonna have you disrupting my meeting. I'll listen to every single one of you. Come up here as long as you want, but I'm not gonna have you doing that. So please, please. All right, so Bob, I think we're done with questions from you at this time, unless Commissioner Pickens has something else.
I'm fine, I just wanted that clarified.
Well, I think it's a good question.
Because I know, because we live this, eventually, and I'm not saying this is, but other projects, just like that other water system, it comes back to us. it's our responsibility to take care of that, which is tax dollars. And everybody up here pays taxes just like everybody out there. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I think this has been one of the best public hearings that we've had. And I think we've worked out a lot of things, but that was a concern. And I don't want any misconceptions, is that if something happens, that the county's just going to step in there and fix this thing, because I don't believe that's going to be the issue.
Well, if this goes forward and it goes through development review and it works out and they get all the agreements in place that have to go forward, it's going to be better for the Bayou Club, because they're going to put in a brand new wastewater treatment plant. They're going to upgrade the existing utility system over there, and it's not going to cost you additional money other than your month to month that you're paying now for a service that quite basically sucks at the present time. But I don't know that we have the authority right now to make them move forward if their other part of the development doesn't work. I don't think we have the authority unless we take the plant over. And I'm telling you, that's going to be the absolute last thing that happens up here. We don't want another one, a water or sewer plant that the citizens of Putnam County have to work on. So, you know, hopefully we are going to come up with something. If this passes today, we're going to come up with something that makes it to the benefit of the existing residents as well as to the new lots that are coming into the future. They're going to do that through the whole development review process. Anybody have any other questions at this time? Does anybody else want to come up and speak? I'll be glad to let one of you. I really don't want you to think. Yes, sir. I'll give you another 3 minutes if you'd like. I believe it was Frank, wasn't it? Mark, I'm sorry.
Mark Sandoval, 132. I just want to make sure I heard that right. It is not the homeowner's responsibility for the water company. That is a separate utility company. The homeowners association has nothing to do with the utility company.
I think Mr. Morgan may have misspoke. I don't think it has anything to do with y'all or not, but the only way it would have anything, I don't know that it would have anything to do with you unless that you already take care of it. Because if the utility system that fails, it won't go back to the homeowners association, it'll come back to the county. And there won't be a damn thing we can do about it. But I promise you, none of us want it. We hate to even talk about that we might have to have it. That's why we're going through everything we can today to make sure they put in provisions that they're going to put in a new plant and they're going to run it and they're going to take the plant that's not very good now and they're going to switch it over before they get any permits. It helps y'all and it helps us too. It's a two-way street here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir. And if there's nobody else that wants to speak, the chair will entertain a motion.
All right, let's make an attempt at this, Mr. Chairman. I move approval of the subdivision, Type 1 subdivision SD 22-008 with the recommendations that our staff has revised and read out loud as public record.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'm going to go ahead and second it for discussionary purposes.
Okay. Under discussion, does anybody need to hear how many were there? 8? 9? Do you want to hear the 9 again, Commissioner Pickens?
I don't need to hear the 9. I guess you probably ought to read the 9, and I have a couple questions.
Would you read the 9 just to where we're sure we don't need to tweak them again under discussion?
Prior to submitting the final plat, the developer shall amend the development agreement to remove the language regarding the minimum 100-foot by 150-foot parcel within the Bayou Club 2 utility area and with access to County Road 309B East Buffalo Bluff Road that was supposed to be conveyed to Putnam County. And Condition 2, also as recommended by staff, the final plat shall include the proposed upgraded wastewater treatment plant with the details as to how existing and proposed developments are to be connected. And Condition 3, the developer shall provide Putnam County Planning and Development Services a copy of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection permit for the proposed upgraded wastewater system to ensure the appropriate wastewater capacity is accounted for. And Condition 4, A right turn lane conforming to Putnam County access standards will be required prior to the approval of the final plat. And condition 5, prior to the approval of the final plat, a surety bond compliant with the requirements of LDC section 451043 shall be provided by the developer to the county administrator and held in an account established by the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners. And condition 6, the developer shall be responsible for repairing and or replacing existing roads if those roads are damaged or deteriorate due to the use during construction. All roads will be repaired subsequent to construction of new units. And condition 7, the new wastewater plant shall be in place and in operation for existing and new dwelling units. Condition 8, all existing homes shall be connected to the upgraded water and new wastewater systems before any new homes are connected to the new systems. And finally, condition 9, all water retention areas shall be upgraded, cleaned, and maintained prior to the issuance of new building permits for the proposed subdivision.
Any other, is there any further discussion on the conditions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. We're going to move down the agenda now to presentations. Presentation A on the list had to be put off. The judge had to go to court. In the future, I want to put our planning and development hearings behind our presentations on the agenda, please.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
can you see if there's anybody that stayed for the drug court? I know that we're not going to read the proclamation, but if there's anybody here, maybe they could stand and we could recognize them. I'm not
Is
sure
there anybody here today that came for the proclamation on the drug court that is still here? I just wanted to make sure. I thought Judge Morris told everybody that was with her.
I just want to make sure somebody
We
wasn't
were
there.
going to try to do it at the next meeting. That we didn't realize that this was going to take this long, so she had to go back to court. But I do want to change that on the agenda unless anybody has an issue. We'll put our planning and development hearing back behind presentations before public comment in the future where we don't run into that. And with that, I'm going to move to item B and ask Commissioner Pickens to read the resolution or the proclamation for the Coast Guard Auxiliary set National Safe Boating Week. Would y'all like to come forward, please? Mr. Pickens.
Okay.
Hi, Kathy Fisk, United States Coast Guard Auxiliary.
Okay, thank you for being here, and you look like you needed a sweater over there.
I'm so cold, it is unreal. My nose is just frozen. Sorry,
Okay.
guys. But
Thank you for being here. Putnam County Proclamation number 2023-054, National Safe Boating Week. Whereas for over 100 million Americans, boating continues to be a popular recreation activity. From coast to coast and everywhere in between, people are taking to the water and enjoying their time boating, sailing, paddling, and fishing. During National Safe Boating Week, the U.S. Coast Guard and its federal, state, and local boating partners encourage boaters to explore and enjoy America's beautiful waterways responsibly. And whereas safe boating begins with preparation, the Coast Guard estimates that human error accounts for most boating accidents, and the life jackets could prevent nearly 86% of boating fatalities. Through basic boating safety procedures, carrying life-saving emergency, distress, and communication equipment, wearing life jackets, attending safe boating courses, participating in free boating safety checks, and staying sober when navigating, we can help ensure boaters of America, coastal, inland, and offshore waters stay safe through the season. Whereas National Safe Boating Week is observed to bring attention to important life-saving tips for recreational boaters so they can have a safer and more fun experience out on the water throughout the year. Whereas on the average, 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the United States, 75% of these fatalities caused by drowning. And whereas the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors. Or whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today if they'd worn their life jackets. Whereas on the behalf of Terry Turner, Chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, I do support the goals of the Safe Boating Campaign and proclaim that May 20 to 26, 2023 National Safe Boating Week and the start of a year-round effort to promote safe boating. Done, ordered, and adopted this 23rd day of May, 2023. Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we adopt this proclamation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Would you like to say something before we have pictures?
I would love to absolutely say something. So why don't you get y'all up and down so it gets, because we are absolutely freezing in here. Basically, the main thing is I've been doing this almost 16 years now. Most of y'all have seen me around, know me. We got stopped by COVID. It really hit everybody hard. Luckily, there was not that many boaters out, and our numbers did drop. The biggest thing that people are not realizing is that everybody is in charge of themselves. You go on a boat with somebody, it's not their responsibility to make sure you have a life jacket. It's not their responsibility to make sure it fits you. I mean, yes, the jacket should be provided, 10 for these people, however many amount of people, but it's up to you to make sure it fits you. It is up to you to make sure that you have the quality, to make sure when you open it inside, it says Coast Guard approved. If it doesn't say it, it's not going to do the job that it was supposed to do. Example, I took my grandsons out to Lake Ida the other day, and we had the kayaks. Well, I didn't want to put them in the river or take them anywhere till I knew. So we practiced falling off the kayaks, getting back on with their complete life jackets. They floated just like you were just standing for 45 minutes, totally relaxed, no problem. So I feel confident that I can take them in the river. I can go anywhere because I know that these work. Most people have a general idea of how to put them on, but really have never put life jackets on. Go swim or go float in a pool in a lake with a life jacket on. It is not the most comfortable thing in the world. So you need to find the one, especially women that have different problems than men, or larger people or smaller. You've got to find the one that's going to fit you to make sure you are safe. You have to look out for you. Right now, we're having a huge, like 500% increase due to kayaks. Kayaks, paddleboards are a big thing right now. They have very minimal requirements, but there's always the nice to knows, you know, like the light you have to have, whether it's daylight or nighttime, that you have to have with you. You know, your life jacket, your whistle, basic things. Like on boats, they require that you have sound-producing device. People have their horn, the horn goes out. People have their whistle, the whistle's attached to the key. You have 9 people in your boat. So when one falls off, where's your whistle? It's attached to the keys, not the other person's. Just a nice to know that we share that. Please put a whistle attached to your life jacket. They're $2.95 at Walmart. You can get them free at a lot of places. You just tuck them in. This way you're taking care of yourself and you're going that extra step, because if it's on the boat and you're in the water, especially with the river, you know, we've got very dark areas and it changes that quick from light to day. And it is hard to be seen. It's just nice to know little things that you have to do, but the biggest thing that people are not looking out for is you're in charge of you. You have to make sure you're safe, and you have to be comfortable. We have too much water out here that is beautiful and awesome, and everybody's sharing and wanting, but you still have to look out for number one. So I thank y'all, because y'all been doing this for lots of years for me, and I really do appreciate that you still support me. Hopefully within the next coming year that, you know, we're getting back out to the swing of things now that we can get out in the public. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
Yes, I can't wait for the picture.
Would you like a picture?
I would love picture. Gotta have my picture.
We get to move around.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, next we're going to ask Commissioner Harvey if he will read the proclamation on Emergency Medical Services Week. Yes, please come up. JR, are you gonna meet them up front here? Glad we didn't have a fire. We've held you up all morning.
Mr. Chairman, Putnam County Proclamation Number 2023-55, Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical professionals and volunteers provide medical care to victims of sudden, life-threatening injuries and illness, often under stressful conditions and in high-risk situations, to save lives. And whereas Florida residents and visitors benefit daily from the knowledge, skill, and judgment of paramedics, emergency medical technicians, firefighters, educators, administrators, emergency physicians, emergency nurses, and others who encompass the emergency medical service system. And whereas emergency medical personnel must rapidly assess, manage, and effectively provide care in unpredictable situations requiring life and death judgments. And whereas Florida's EMS teams unselfishly serve on the front line of healthcare when responding to man-made and natural disasters at the local, state, and national levels. Whereas it is critical the general public be made aware of, understand, support, and effectively use its local emergency medical services system. And whereas recognition is due for the emergency medical system for its accomplishments and contributions to improve public welfare through health care, medical transportation, injury prevention, education, disaster response, homeland security, and other initiatives that reduce healthcare costs and save lives. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners that the week of May 21st through 27th, 2023 is declared Emergency Medical Services Week in Putnam County, and that all citizens are encouraged to take part in recognizing the hard work and dedicated services provided by all personnel providing emergency medical services done, ordered, and adopted this 23rd day of May 2023. Mr. Chairman, I move this proclamation forward.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Are you or Chief Backer, somebody would like to make any comments before we take our picture, or?
I just want to make one comment. I think Putnam County has the best paramedics and firefighters in the state of Florida, and I'm honored to lead them. I'd put them up against anybody. They go above and beyond to protect our citizens and our visitors every day.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, before we do it, may I make a comment, sir?
Sure.
I'd just like to say, this is absolutely one of those times you want to recognize those folks who do a great job, and this is for me and my family for what you guys provided us most recently with the dignity and care for our mother-in-law. Thank you from the bottom of my heart and my family's heart. You guys are outstanding. Thank you so much for what you do.
Y'all walk up here and stand across here. We'll
stay back here.
Miss Tina, how are you today? You got a blanket, don't you? I don't know why we can't, it's like you
Who's got a
can't,
blanket?
it's
I want a
one
blanket.
end or the other. If it gets too hot.
Good.
All these people
Chief
left.
Back.
See, so now the air is just moving
Well,
freely. We got lots of fresh air down here.
Julianne, thank you, brother. Good to see you. How you doing, brother? For some reason, we can't get in the middle here. I guess thermostats don't work in this building. So you can't, it's either burning up or freezing to death, and you don't get anywhere in between. So if I have my druthers, I'd rather it be too cold. Okay, so Judge Moore said she did not want us to, read or pass her resolution, correct, Terry? Judge Moore said that she did not, she wanted to put her resolution off till her proclamation on drug court off till a later date.
That is correct. We'll work out a reschedule for Judge Morris.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's not National Drug Court Month and we can make next month National, or County Drug Court Month. Okay, Miss Sarah, would you please come forward? She's going to do an employee recognition for us this morning. Well, she must already know that she's going to win. You're bringing her up here, will you? So you didn't keep it a secret.
No, we always tell them who's coming up. So our Employee of the Month for April 2023 is Denise Adams. She works in sanitation. And Jay has a knack for hiring people that just have an outstanding attitude. And Denise is not an exception. She goes the extra mile to help everyone in the department. She is the lead person for procurement and budgeting for the department, and she's always looking for ways to trim the bottom line and working with vendors to ensure that our invoicing is correct and billed correctly. She's got excellent communication skills. She helps out with training on other new employees. And again, she's just a great example of a positive attitude and someone who's willing to go above and beyond for the people in her department. So congratulations, Denise.
We first and foremost want to thank everybody for giving this honor to Ms. Adams. She hasn't been with us very long. When I say very long, she's only been probably a little over a year, right on there. But she's interjected herself and became a vital part to our department and the things that we do. Everything from, like I just said, from making sure that we get all of our equipment taken care of, holding our vendors accountable to make sure that we do get the biggest bang for our buck, and as far as even standing out there at Tire Amnesty Day and counting every one of the tires as they come in. So we appreciate her attitude and her willingness to do everything that we need her to do. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Bring her up, Jay, and we'll take a picture. Some of y'all want to go down and stand beside them, Terry?
You take them outside for a moment?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
How many tires did you count?
She didn't have to remember, she just counted.
20 at a time?
Yeah, probably. Okay, we're going to move into public comment on agenda items. Mrs. Shanley, what are you wanting to speak about this morning? Are you wanting to speak under regular public comment at the end of the meeting?
Yeah, regular
Okay,
public.
thank you. Just want to make sure I didn't bypass you. There's no problem. Comment on agenda items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow the citizens an opportunity to bring matters before the board on agenda items. It is not responsible to expect that the board is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes. Public comments cards are conveniently placed in the meeting room entrance and should be submitted prior to the meeting if possible to the deputy clerk, who just raised her hand over here. I guess is acting clerk, right? Okay. Our dear Sarah Herbine. So here we go. So anyhow, is there anybody here this morning that would like to speak on public comment on agenda items? Okay, seeing now after that long spiel, we'll move into the consent agenda. Commissioner Adams-Ack, do you have anything you want to pull this morning? I do not. Commissioner Harvey?
I have none, sir.
Commissioner Pickens?
I have none.
Commissioner Wilkinson?
I have none.
And I have none. Chair will entertain
Chairman.
it. Yes, sir.
I move that we approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimous. Under new business, we're going to move into the clerk of court for his investment policy. I'm hoping that everybody got a chance to read it. Matt presented it to us many weeks ago and gave everybody the opportunity to make any comment or changes that they felt appropriate, and he's done them all. And so, does anybody have any issues or want to hear anything additional or talk about it? If not, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the clerk of the court's investment policy as stated in our agenda.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimous.
Thank
you. A lot easier than you thought, ain't it, Matt?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, next we're gonna go to the Parks and Recreation. Basically, they're wanting to add a shade structure in the corresponding budget resolution to that park in Johnson. Does anybody want to talk about it before we do it?
At the Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting, I think it was May 8th, we discussed that, and it was unanimous to recommend that, a possible place to have a shade structure out in Johnson.
Mr. Wilkinson, you had a comment?
I'm just wanting to know, do we have any funds being brought in, or this is all out of our
This is funded by the county's general fund.
100%?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Adams, aye.
Yeah, I'm the one that asked for this to be put on into the Parks Committee, and I appreciate their work that they did in approving it, and look forward to hearing what we do with it here.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt item B and pass it.
Second. As with the budget resolution.
Yes, sir, budget resolution.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Hopefully, everybody got a chance to look at the resurfacing list. I think there's gonna be a minor change, and the only change is gonna be that JT came in and decided that, in order to save money for the county, that we need to do certain roads at certain times and where there's not double mobilizations in any parts. Does anybody, he hasn't changed the items on the list, just the way that they're going to be done to the most advantageous way for scheduling, correct, JT?
That is correct.
Okay, so unless it's, like I said, nothing's changed as far as what's gonna be done, it's only how it's gonna be done at a savings or at a potential savings. So does anybody have anything else they wanna add? It's basically the same list we've seen multiple times.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say I met with JT last week, and that was something that he wanted to do, and it just really struck my fancy that we got somebody looking at keeping their eye on the ball, saving the county money as we move forward, because that's what we want to do. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt and approve the resurfacing fiscal year 23 list as presented to us today.
Have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
I haven't had time, I talked to JR a little bit in the parking lot this morning, and JT, welcome aboard. I called you last Friday, and appreciate what you're going to do for us. But JR, I just want to make sure that was discussing this morning that
2.4 miles on Union Avenue.
Yeah.
Is that on your list, Mr. Stout?
Yes,
Did you
County
got-
Road 308 to US 17 and US 17 to end of pavement, which gives District 1 2.6 miles.
Okay.
I was surprised it wasn't all in District 1.
Well, when I'm not done yet. We're not done yet.
Oh, you're done.
We're not done with this conversation yet.
I think we're done now.
I just want to clarify what District 1 is going to get.
Okay.
Now, is Palomino still on there?
So I made a few minor adjustments to try and negate some mobilization fees, and I'm hoping in June to bring you the fiscal year 24 resurfacing list so that we can hopefully put them out to bid relatively in the same time frame, so that maybe we can do fiscal year 23 and move right into 24 on the resurfacing. And so Palomino will be on the fiscal year 24.
We will definitely be in touch on District 1. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I'm good.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all, did you say?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So looking at these two lists, page 324 and 325, there's some differences. Could you help me understand the differences?
So on District 2, my proposals has South Palm Avenue from end of pavement to State Road 20 for 1.6, East Towel Road for US 17 to Old Jacksonville Highway for 0.2, Bethune Street to Phillips Dairy Road, Bethune Street from Phillips Dairy Road to Carver Street for 0.15 of a mile, and Carver Street from Bethune Street to Orange Avenue for 0.2 of a mile, and it puts all of them relatively close. And then on fiscal year 24, the rest of District 2 that was proposed will be resurfaced.
Okay, and then on the, this page that says 325, that was a preliminary list. The Barton Ranchette Road, that's already been done, that's that chip seal, right?
Yeah, we were taking that one off, and on 325 Barton Road from Johns Road to East Bannerville was mistakenly listed as District 4, and that'll be changed to clearly to be District 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. On to item D, which is the roadway striping. So basically, what happened was that we didn't get around to doing a 22 striping. And so instead of carrying the 60,000 forward, what we did was we never did the striping. So we do have some striping that needs to be done, and this, we're going to use the 60,000 that we should have used from last year. Is that correct? I mean, the budget resolution is actually coming out of Public Works money, correct?
Not exactly. Yes, not exactly. We did 22. It didn't get carried forward into 23. Right. So 22 did not get missed. It just simply didn't get carried forward into the budget. So what happens in that scenario is it goes into the reserves for transportation. This budget amendment is essentially truing up the 22 numbers to allow us to leave the 23 numbers in place as they should have been for the budget.
But we're going to do $60,000 worth of striping in the deal.
In this year, yes, sir. This will allow us to complete this year's project. Last year's project didn't get completed during the year, but with the PO carried forward, however, they didn't report it. We weren't sure it was going to carry forward, so.
Basically, we fixing to stripe $60,000 worth of roads, and it ain't new money.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the striping list fiscal year 23 and the budget resolution to support that $60,000 program.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, we're going to move down into appointments. Commissioner Adams Act. Commissioner Harvey.
I have none.
Commissioner Pickens.
I have none.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
I have none.
And I have none today. So we're going to move into public comments on miscellaneous items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow the citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit to 3 minutes. Public comment cards are conveniently placed in the meeting room and should be submitted prior to Deputy Clerk, Ms. Sarah Herbreen over here on my left, your right, who sits to the right of the podium. And we're going to start with Mrs. Chan Lee.
Okay, my name is Susan Chanley. I'm at 113 William Bartram Drive. I was hoping to be at 108 Willow Lane this morning, but that didn't happen. I went for my final inspection on my property, and it seems as the road committee, planning and development, wants me to put a culvert in. I am in Georgetown Cove, of which the roads are maintained by our community. There is no ditch, no swale on my side of the road in order to put a culvert. If we put a culvert, it's going to be 15 inches above my property and above the road, and you're going to be going up and down. I don't know if anybody came out and looked at it, and why in the 11th hour of being able to move into my new home have I gotten correspondence from
Let me work on this for you just a minute.
Right.
Okay.
This was the first, this is in my district, you know, Georgetown Cove, JR, so this is the first I've heard of it too, also.
Well, I don't know that Brian knows about this yet either, and I don't want to just jack Brian over on his first board meeting.
And I know this is early.
Okay, what I'm gonna ask you is if she don't have a ditch there, and we did that, I want this taken care of course, but I wanna know how it happened, where it doesn't happen again and keep somebody from moving out in the future, not just in this case. If there's no ditch there, we're not gonna dig a damn hole and put a culvert in it, and then cover the hole up. That makes no sense at all. So, if it was a miscommunication that there is ditching there, or there is something or whatever, if Brian, would you hold up your hand? This is our Director of Development Services. If you will get with him after the meeting, please let me know if this doesn't work out, and I'll see if I can get involved again, but I bet I don't. I bet you Mr. Helm can take care of it along with staff.
And I had a little second thing while I was sitting there. I had wanted to come up earlier. Again, I'm in Georgetown Cove. We have 3,100 pieces of property out there. I am looking at people that aren't paying their HOA dues, which I know you guys don't care about that. But we have an entity that owns 10% of our lots, 345 lots, and he has not paid property taxes since 2015. That's a lot of money this county is going without. And nobody is paying it on his behalf, buying certificates, because as I understand it, this entity has a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against him, and that has to be settled before anybody can claim his property. I just feel that this county needs to do something, because we have people in the community who want to own it, but they can't afford to pay off his debt.
I don't know that would come before us
Yeah,
anyhow here
but
at the
it's-
board. It may be more of
it's
a
a
property
concern.
appraiser or tax collector issue, I'm not sure, but, thank you for bringing it to
Okay.
our attention.
That's all.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a comment on the culvert. Brian, can you hear me? Okay, so in that subdivision, I've had people complain about having to put a culvert in, and then a few lots down not having to put it in because of whatever. There's no swale like she's talking about. And I've spoken to Sean Ladd about that, so you might get with me afterwards, because I'd like that one looked into, because we need to be fair but consistent also through any of these. And these are not county-maintained roads, as she said. So anyway, I just wanted to add that.
And it's not just this particular case, it's like he said, we need to do what's right up and down the street for everybody. And when she's fixing to try to get a final on her house, the time to her finding out she needed a culvert wasn't when the inspector showed up and said, oh, by the way, I could find you, but you didn't put a culvert in that we never told you needed in the first place. That ain't right. So, thank you.
And I live with a man that built roads, and he says, I can make water run downhill. He doesn't have a problem, but.
Mr. Adams,
Thank
did you have something?
Yeah, I need to go back to item 8, appointments, real quick, if that's all right.
Oh, yes, sir, no problem.
Because I missed, and thank you, Julianne, for reminding me. I have 3 appointments for the Morris Trail Bumpy Lane MSBU. Christopher Westbury is the chairman or president, Adam Hill is a committee member, and Phil Wyatt is a committee member.
They,
I think they picked their own chairman,
Oh, okay, that's how they wanted it, but yeah, okay, as members.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be a vote, or would that be a?
No, it's just an appointment, but I have to make it.
I'm good.
Before we meet
Got
tomorrow.
it, thank you. Do you have any additional, Commissioner? Okay, no problem. Okay, now we're going to ask Miss Melissa Ray if she'd like to come forward. Morning.
Morning, lady and
Can
gentlemen.
you give us your name and address for the record, Melissa?
Yes, sir. I am Melissa Ray, 108 Barber Lane, Palatka, Florida. I am also the administrator of our new Recovery High School that we have here in Putnam County. More than the Recovery High School, it is a school that is holistic, and we focus on meeting the child where they are and providing holistic care to surround all of their issues, struggles, and provide an education at the same time. It's no secret that COVID has had a huge impact on our students and on our children. Sometimes we can lose sight of the fact that while we as adults are struggling with our finances or job security or whatever is happening, our children are being affected by our struggles, whether we see it or realize it or not. And they also have been affected by their own struggles when it comes to COVID and shutting down schools. And we know at this point, we have right here in Palatka, 1,600 students attending one school, Palatka Junior Senior High School. It's no secret to anyone in the school system that it is not conducive to every child. Our school system, our public school system is no longer conducive to meet the needs of every student. And we have a student here today that I would like to present to the county. He is our very first graduate. He is receiving a high school diploma, not a GED, and he is also the first grandchild on his father's side to graduate from high school. And so if everyone that is in support of the Hope Center would please stand up. And I apologize, many people did have to leave to continue on with their day today because I wasn't able to get an exact time for them to be here. So you're looking at a student who, this is his third school this year, and attempting to receive his diploma. And you see the support that he has. We have students that come to us with absolutely no support. And so this program is going to be so beneficial to this community once we get established and funded the way that we need to. But the whole point of today is to acknowledge Damaris Lewis. And will his family that helped him please come up with him? And we have two other students that are here, and I'm very proud of them because this has been a long time for them to sit still and quiet. So Talicia and Dorian, will y'all stand up, please? And then I need Miss Cheryl also to come up here. And the board members, if you that were able to stay would like to come up, you're welcome to. If not, you don't have to. So are we able to come up here so those that are out there can take the pictures?
Absolutely. We'll stand up behind you if you don't mind.
And Great Results High School Program, we present you with your high school diploma.
All right.
And as I mentioned, it's not just the academic component. We work on many other things at the school as well. So we're also presenting him with his certificate of completion at the Hope Center.
Young man.
Let's get her to the podium.
I'd like to give
so
you
we
a
can hear.
county pin to wear on.
Congratulations.
My name is Alice R. Smith Brock, and I'm the great-grandmother of Demarius. And I am one proud lady here today. He is my second great-grand to graduate. And I graduated in 1970, 53 years ago. And I just feel so proud and honored today. And the Hope Center, I can't say enough about it. And I don't live here, excuse me, I don't live here. I live in Bunnell, Florida. But I must say, I am proud.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I'm Demaris Lewis's mother. And of course, he's my oldest child. And I do want to give honor to God first, because without him, none of this would be possible. I also want to thank the Hope Center. As Melissa stated, this is his third school in his attempt to get a high school diploma. They have worked tremendously throughout the school year to help him. They have went above and beyond to meet his needs. I can't express it enough. I also want to thank my family, who has also stood behind the Hope Center to help me push him, because it has not been easy to get him through school, but look how far we've came. Again, thanks to the Hope Center.
Congratulations again, young man.
That's what I want to say. Mr. Lewis, I just want to congratulate you personally. I was the first person in my family to graduate from high school as well. And I just want you to know that you can do anything if you put your mind to it.
That's right.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, would you mind?
not at all.
Mr. Lewis, before you leave out, I graduated in '79 from Placa High School, which then we called the new high school because they put Placa Central and Placa South together, and I went to Central High. The expectations for me were not very good. The community, I worked right here in the grocery store. There was a grocery store in this plaza. This was our movie theater for those of you who are younger than that. But with God's help and God's grace and mercy, I've been able to be here. I've stood in the Oval Office of the White House for the President of the United States. I've done things I would have never dreamed in my life that I would ever do. But it's only because God's plan was bigger than my plan. So do not let this world tell you you cannot do it, because you can do anything with the help of the Lord. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations again, Mr. Lewis. Good job. And we're going to move on to comments by the Clerk of Court, Honorable Matt Reynolds.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing else this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Rich, Captain Commando.
I have nothing, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, good deal. The Administrator, County Administrator, Terry Suggs.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further comments this morning. Thank you.
Okay. And we'll move to Commissioner comments. Commissioner Adams, Act.
Yep. I'd like to make a comment. I guess I was called out directly earlier today, and I'd like to clarify my stance on trailers and on different things in the community, because that was kind of a little sideways. But you know, I've stood by what we do here as a commission, and I think that we've done a lot. And I believe the conversation I had, I don't remember every conversation I had with everyone when I was running, but most of the conversations I had around trailers were around the blight in the community. And I think that the program that we do, that's, you know, on our first meeting every month, where people get rid of some of them and they clean up the properties to do that, is addressing that. And I also think that, you know, doing the auctions of the properties that we take in some income from, that hopefully is going to go towards remediating some other properties with those funds, as we kind of designed it for. Those are the things that I was pushing for, not putting up old trailers, which isn't something we've done in the Land Development Code yet, but that is something that I'm hoping that we get done as my time here goes on and as the rest of us go on. I don't know what the other commissioners' thoughts are on that, but you know, having someone bring in a 1980s trailer or 1996 trailer isn't conducive, but a brand new trailer on someone's privately owned lot absolutely makes sense, or in this case, developing a PUD that already is a PUD for that type of housing. So I don't know if that helps the woman or anyone else that may have heard her comment, but that's where I stand. That's where I've always stood. I wrote several articles on my thoughts on that when I was a candidate. I've made several comments publicly about it since I've been elected, and I don't think I've swayed from that one bit.
and hopefully we continue moving forward in that light. With that said, I guess the one thing I did want to bring up, separate from that, because that wasn't my planned comments, was we had a discussion and kind of this being on the agenda to recognize the emergency medical services week, kind of brought it back to the forefront of my mind is under the MSBU and MSTUs, potentially for EMS, EMTs, and then also for fire service. I still support the idea of us looking forward into that some more. I know JR and I have had some conversations over the years that I've been here, not as long as several of the rest of you, but I think at least in respect to utilizing the one before it could possibly go away, because I think we do have to have it in place before we become too large of a county and things like that, from what the lady that came, I think, about a year and a half ago to present it to us. I think we should look into in this planning stages and having the MSTU, I think, is the one, the taxing unit, that once you get to a certain size, if you haven't implemented it, it's no longer available. I think it is in our best interest and in future commissioners' best interest not to have that tool go away. And I think we could possibly utilize it to do a subsection of the budget for the EMT, EMS, whether it's an ambulance or some things like that that are recurring expenses that would make sense. I'd like for us to explore that possibly in an upcoming, and maybe JR and I, we can sit down before that, and if JR is the appropriate resource at this time, but JR and I could sit down before that and maybe get that on the agenda maybe in June or July to get that talked about, because I think that has to be done before the end of I can't remember if it's calendar or fiscal. There was two different things that had to happen, depending on whether it was fiscal or calendar. I don't remember which went first. So that's just something that came to my mind when I saw that on the agenda this week, and I'd like to start having a little bit of that conversation, at least utilizing the tool, getting it something that's in place for us in future commissions, even if we use it on a smaller scale than what we proposed when we had the assessment done on a grand county-wide scale. But that allows the tool to be there for us and for future commissions, as well as the opportunity to fund some things from an alternative funding source as needed. So that's about what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Pickens.
Okay, you're going out of order.
I am. I'm going to shake things up today, keep y'all off guard.
Well, thank you, Chairman Turner. And I want to start by recognizing two members of our community, two educators who passed away in the month of May. The first one is Joe Hull. Joe Hull lived 92 years, a full life, a life well lived. Mr. Hull was an educator, a coach, an administrator. He was my principal. Mr. Hull touched a lot of lives. I went to his funeral, and the church was not that big, but it was packed. And when you have people in there in their 90s all the way down to their teens that weren't relatives, then you made an impact. He made an impact to South Putnam in 1983 when he hired a young college student, actually for the second time, named Holly Henderson. Little did he know that she would have a 34-year career, coach volleyball for 34 years, basketball for probably 20 of that, become the winningest female coach in Putnam County history, if I'm correct. But if you mention that to Holly, she says, I also have the records for the most losses. Joe Hull touched my life. He was my principal. We were Rotarians together, and I considered him a friend. The second one was a life that was lost too soon. Sean Delaney, head football coach of Crescent City Junior Senior High School. Sean and his brother Travis grew up in Crescent City. Their family had a family business. After high school, Sean left and went to college. He moved back and worked a while, and then went to South Carolina, where he was in the business sector, but also stayed in coaching. His brother Travis and Aaron are both teachers in Putnam County and at the high school, and made a great impact. Sean, I truly believe, had a calling to come back to Crescent City, finish his degree, start teaching, and he became the head football coach. I also attended his funeral. We have a very large facility at our church. It's the old YMCA. There was roughly 500 people there to honor Sean. Friends, relatives, former classmates, students. He made a great impact. So with that saying, I want to congratulate all the graduates of all the high schools in Putnam County for what their accomplishments are. We have 2 educators sitting in the back that are now with the county. I look forward to working for them. But how we impact our students, you just can't do enough for them. So at the Crescent City Junior Senior High School graduation, it'll be heavy hearts for what we lost, but also for what we had, from Mr. Hull to Sean Delaney. And I just want to recognize those 2 individuals for what they did for Putnam County. Since we're on education, I just want to commend and recognize Holly and I have attended the Palaca High School musical theater department's plays for the last number of years, and we went to the Titanic a few weeks ago. And if you've never been to one of those plays, I just want to commend all the students, the staff. Mr. Jim Pagnato, I believe is his name. They do a tremendous job. The outfits or costumes that they wore during this were actually used on Broadway. This is a very professional group, and it's just outstanding what they do. I'm almost done.
You're good, brother. I'll tell you, like I told the Bayou Club, take as much time as you want, and I'll listen to you all day.
I want to also just hope everybody has a safe and happy Memorial Day, and that we take time to honor the men and women who lost their lives defending this country so we have the freedoms that we have today. And last but not least, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the St. Johns River State baseball team for their accomplishments. They moved to a Division I standing this year, and for the first year, they're now going to the National Junior College Athletic Association Division II World Series in Oklahoma. And I just want to commend Coach Jones, his staff, and also the president, who I know quite well, Mr. Joe Pickens, for what they've done at that college, not just with athletics, but with education and bringing that college to a new level. And I'm a firm believer of education through athletics. And if you looked in the paper, the awards that those young men have received will just pay dividends, in the future. So I just want to congratulate them. And that's all I have for today.
I believe that's more than I heard you say in 35 years.
Wow, good deal.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
I can't follow that. But I do have a couple things.
Commissioner Harvey.
I said I got a couple things.
She could do it.
I also wanted to congratulate everyone who is graduating this year. I went to my granddaughter's first grade classroom for her awards, and then tonight I get the honor of going to my oldest granddaughter's graduation, so it's quite moving. Anyway, also just wanted to remind everybody the Blue Crab Festival is coming up this weekend from the 26th to the 28th. Next weekend. That's next weekend, isn't it? And I also want to thank the volunteers for everything they did to help with the Wolfson's Children's Hospital bass tournament. It was the 34th one here in Putnam County, and it is right up there next to some of our biggest bass tournaments we have in the community. And it's just a wonderful thing for the Children's Hospital, but also to see our community come together. And then lastly, I want to say thank you to the Putnam County Landfill and for our BOCC for hosting the Amnesty Tire Days, trying to pick up trash in the community, and that is a big deal for us. So thank you for that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, my colleague down on the far left says his brother speaks better than him, but I disagree with that. Because when Commissioner Pickens speaks, it comes from the heart, and it really means Not that your brother doesn't, I'm just saying.
I was gonna say, you're
Yeah, you need to,
But, yeah, I
straighten
cleaned
that
out. I
out,
did,
straighten
'cause
that out.
I'm sure President Pickens is watching, so, but, you know. Yeah. I do want to thank, Mr. Chairman, our new 2 employees, Mr. Helms and Mr. Stout, who came to us with, they're impeccable men, and look forward to working with them, and common sense approach, I can already tell, is going to prevail, and thinking outside the box like we saw today, and getting things done. You know, we don't ask them to bend over backwards and break the rules. We just ask them to look at common sense approaches to the problems. And I know y'all have been beat up a little bit, but truly we're glad you're in the family. We are a family. We'll gather around you, and we're going to support that decision, because I think it's one of the best decisions we can possibly make. You know, I had an employee one time, I won't go into too long of a detail, but she worked at the local handy waste store at the corner of 20 and 315, and I would get there work early in the morning and watch her work. And when they were going to demolish the handyway, I went over and said, "Do you have future plans?" She said, "I really don't." And I said, "Would you come to work for me?" And she said, "I don't know a thing about insurance." I said, "Are you willing to come to work and learn?" She said, "I'll be there early and I'll learn as much as I can." She's still there today. So with that kind of an attitude, and believe me, those people like that matter, and that's what y'all are. You're willing to show up, you're willing to learn, and move this county forward. We need more of that. Do want to thank our staff. Took time, kept having to change a few things, but had started our budget talks with me. I appreciate that. We spent a few hours, and it's hard, let me assure you, it's hard for certain staff members to dedicate 3 or 4 hours of their time without being interrupted, but we did very well and started that conversation, and I appreciate that very much. And Julianne and JR and Mr. Suggs, thank you for that. Graduation starts, I guess, tonight in Larkin High School. I'm kind of excited because this is the first time I've been invited since when I first started 9 years ago, so I'm looking forward to being there. We're praying no rain. There's kind of a joke in West Putnam that if it's graduation, it's going to rain, but tonight it's not going to. We're going to skip by that and move forward. And last but not least, I have a letter here. Mrs. Bell Tilley wanted me to read the whole thing into. I won't do that. It's just her fight, a continual fight with Waste Pro and problems with animal control. I'll just put it in the county record and give it to the proper people who can address it. I have been out there many times trying to address her problems. So is Waste Management, so is Animal Services, but it just never seems to make it happy. And I don't know if it's one that we can, but we're going to try very hard. Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my comments, and happy graduation to everybody who's graduating this week.
Thank you, sir. First, I want to talk about Land Development Code. We started the process on Friday and had a meeting with staff, and it's going to continue on. And we came up with a plan to move it forward, and so it's going to move, and hopefully we'll have a significant step forward by the end of July. That's what we're hoping for anyhow in that time frame. Also, obviously, it's budget season. I think that probably what we're going to have to do, even though I don't like workshops unless they're necessary, I think we're going to have a workshop or two for the budget season. I believe that the constitutional officers are probably going to want to speak to us and work in a workshop environment about, and I'm not sure exactly when that will be, probably around the middle of June, Julianne, or quicker, that I'll need to call a workshop.
Yeah, the middle of June should be fine. They're all tentatively working on their budgets. It was a late legislative session, so there is still some information that they're getting pieces, but I believe mid to late June we should be able to set up. We typically do it over 2 days, so traditionally we've done 2 constitutional offices and then 2 constitutional offices. We can do it however you'd like to set it up. If you want to do all in one, it's irrelevant from our side.
Kind of is from my side too, to be honest with you. Sometimes it helps and sometimes it hurts to have 2 mornings instead of an all-day. Let me give that some thought. But I'll try to set something up middle of June. I think the later in June that we can do it, and we'll have better numbers as we go and more accurate numbers as we go along. Right now, it's just pure projections and estimations that they have out there. So, but I would sooner rather than later also, I think we're going to have, this year, we're going to have a budget on workshop, because basically the way it works right now, the concept is that we get an idea of approximately how much new revenues are going to take place. The first decision that has to be made in the whole process from this board is if they're going to take any of the rollback rate or not, where the constitutionals know what's going on and the amount of money that's going to be left in the pot. And I'm just pulling these numbers right out there, but let's just say, for instance, that we decided to do a rollback of some sort this year, a millage rate reduction this year. If we did, then that money would have to come off the top of what projected revenues are going to be for next year. And the current rules say that we take 20% of whatever amount of money that we're going to use in tax revenues, we're going to take 20% of that and put it and set it aside, and the 80% left is going to be divvied up in the percentages that were set forth by how much of a percentage our last year's budget was, basically. And so the rest of it would be percentages. So we just have to decide out of the additional 20%, is there what's to be done with that, or if or not we're going to take any off the top and use it for a rollback rate. And I think that almost has to be the first discussion and the first decision in the whole process, because nobody can budget anything if they don't at least have a ballpark idea of what kind of revenues they're going to have to budget with. So that's probably going to be our first meeting, and it probably should even be before the constitutionals meeting, because they don't know what's going on until we make the first decision. Are we going to try to take a millage rollback this year or not? That's the first one that I want to set up. As soon as you get the best numbers, or along the line when you feel like it's to the advantage we do that, we'll call a meeting. That one there I may actually do. I don't think it's going to be an all-day affair to make the decision, do we take a rollback or not? And so we may do that one maybe on the second Tuesday in June as new business on the board meeting. We'll try to have that discussion as far as are we going to take a rollback or not? And as part of the new business discussion, and then we'll set up a workshop for probably the following week with the constitutionals to let them make their budget proposals, and that'll give them about a week in there after they find out how much they would get through the formula, they would find out how much to present for their budget the following week. Does that sound like a plan, or do you need to do that to me?
Let me just recap your timeline here. The property appraiser's office is required to deliver, and they've been giving us estimates, but they give us the preliminary numbers June 1st. So that proposal would be June 13th would be the meeting following those numbers, and then that following week would be the 19th through the 23rd, where you're talking about the constitution.
So I need to step it up.
Go ahead, Matt.
I'll just add that state statute states that constitutionals have to turn in our budget request to you by June 1st. So that's 8 days. So mine is I've already got mine pretty much prepared, but I mean, my letter that I'm giving to you pretty much just says I'm waiting to see whatever our percentage breakdown is.
So we need to do it now, is what you're saying,
Well, the
as far as
June
making the
1st
decision.
requirement, and everybody, all the constitutionals are aware, and they're kind of working on some preliminaries, but they also are all aware that we have to figure out what we're doing with millage. So that first round of budget is just like all of our department heads have submitted a first round, but we don't know what the numbers are at this time. So my only communication to you is it possible for us to get it done? Yes, but the closer you crunch the time frame, the harder it is for everyone to react to any adjustment that's going to be
Well, I'm
needed.
not trying to put you in a crack or make you hurry even. I'm just no more than usual. I'm just trying to make this work out. So what you're saying is, in layman terms,
So maybe June 6th would be the first Tuesday of the month, and I don't, if you're trying to stick on Tuesdays.
that would be for the decision on, so
Yes,
we'd
sir.
need to do a workshop on June the 6th. Is everybody going to be in town with that being?
I will not.
Yeah, see, that's the problem is
I got you.
when you get these 3-week in between commission meetings like we have right now, a lot of commissioners actually go and make plans during that time, especially this time of year.
That's what he suggested.
Well, they need us to do it quicker than that, is what she was just saying.
I'm not saying you have to do it quicker than that. I just want you to be aware of the timelines and the reaction of what we're going to be asking our constitutionals to make. Because each of those constitutional offices are then going to have to react to any decision made by the board at that time.
Sure.
Oh, my turn. I mean, I'm prepared for my statement on it. I think we should hold everyone at this year's budget and have them do a budget at that amount, so that if we did a full rollback, then we budget for it. If we decide as a commission not to do that, then we at least fit into that spectrum, and then if there's additional requests, then we could adjust it at that time.
And that's exactly why I want to call a workshop early, because everybody may agree with that comment and they may not, and I don't think we need to make that decision today. I mean, I do want to take some rollback. I don't know if we can afford to take it all, but again, I don't want to get into that conversation today. I'm trying to do it. I'd just as soon not my longest meeting not take till 5 o'clock this afternoon. And so I just need to do it early enough. I can't do it next Tuesday. I could do it
I'm okay with June 13th. I mean, truly, on my side, we can meet all the milestones.
But see, isn't it pretty hard, difficult at that point by June 13th? They can send in their budget request, but we don't actually have to let them present our budget to us before June 1st, do we, Matt?
No.
It's just you have to present your budget.
By state statute, I just have to present you with a request. So that's all I'm gonna do, is just give you a number, whether that
They
fits
can
in the
send a
percentage or
request by
not, or
June
whatever it is.
1st, Then on the 13th, we can make our decision on how much money's in the pot, and then they'll know, at that point, then they'll know how much they're gonna have, and, you know, as far as what their percentages would give them, and either they can or they can't make it on that. Hopefully they can. I just can't imagine they can't live within their percentages. And so then we just move forward. Everybody would know how much there is, and it's a simple math formula once the board makes a decision on if they accept any rollback or not, because otherwise, you got X amount of dollars, that's what you got. Am I missing something? Okay, so, all right, so we're just gonna shoot for the 13th and do it on the 13th? And if we decide that it needs to be done quicker, I'll call the meeting quicker. But I'll ask that y'all reach out to the commissioners, because I'd just like to pick a day that all 5 commissioners have available to be here, where we're not trying to do this 4-handed or 3-handed. Till when? From now till the 5th of June? Friday till the 5th of June. All right, so if we need to do it, we need to try and do it sometime in that neighborhood. As much as, if we get into a crack, we can do it, but I'd just soon all 5 commissioners be available.
Yeah, because the week that, after that, from the 4th to the 10th, I'm out. That takes the next 2 weeks.
You wanna just incorporate it at the end of our meeting on the 13th?
It'll be part of our meeting under new business on the 13th, yes, sir.
And did you wanna do budget talk the following week?
I think that it would be a good idea. To me, once we make the decision, this board makes a decision on how much revenues they have. In other words, that they're gonna roll back to a certain amount. Once they make that decision, then the rest of the money should be done as a formula. they put in their budget request. Each department gets a percentage of what it is, just like we've done the last 2 years. It's all just mathematical formula on who gets what, once the commission makes a decision on how much money's in the pot, and from after the possible rollback, if we accept the rollback. I don't know that we have to plan. It might just be an absolute, it might just be once we make the decision on the 13th. If it may be the rest of it isn't anything but just an absolute mathematical formula. Now, I don't know by statute if they have to actually come and meet with us face to face or not. I just think they got to present their budget, the constitutionals, and if they want to, I'm surely word in the world's not going to turn them down, any of them, if they want to come meet face to face. But hopefully, this would go to working like it's supposed to work. That X amount of dollars is going to be put towards the additional revenues in the budget. And then if we don't take the complete rollback, which I don't know that we do, but whatever amount's going to go to the budget, then they would know what percentages they get based on their last year's budget. It's a simple mathematical formula. And if this is done correct, it takes all the bickering and back and forth and the hard feelings and everything else in between us and the constitutionals. You get your percentage in whatever it is. So we've done it the last 2 years. Last year it worked almost flawlessly. We had one hiccup, which I'm not going to bring up today, but that's fine. Julianne, do you think we're good with that? Wait until then, or if you change your mind, we'll just have to do it four-handed.
Commissioner, on my side, the timeline is perfectly fine. As I will say and have said 100 times, budget moves every day. I do budget every day. And so let me also say that Commissioner Harvey reached out. He was ready to start his budget discussions early. We traditionally don't start the commissioner one-on-ones until after we start some of those conversations. But at any time, if any commissioner is ready to have some conversation one-on-one, then my office is always open, and I've said it 100 times, but I'm going to say it again just because it came up in Commissioner Harvey's comments. I want to make sure everybody knows they're invited at any time. We'll go through preliminary numbers, we'll go through last year's numbers, we'll go through whatever you want to go through.
We, obviously, you and I talk about it on a pretty regular basis, so it's not like, I haven't had to call a special meeting or something because we talk about it regularly.
We do.
But again, any commissioners that need to or would like to talk to Julianne or Julianne and Briar, either one together or whatever the case may be, then it would be good to go in and discuss numbers or whatever you need to. Is there anything else to come before the board today?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I got one other thing.
Commissioner Pickett.
I just wanted to recognize the product of Putnam winners. It's given by the school board, and just go down them for advanced manufacturing with Justin Freeman, agriculture with John Chastain, business Carl Flagg, community service Renee Huff, education Rebecca Moats, healthcare Greg Juckenberg. And these people are from Putnam County and make a difference in Putnam County. And last but not least is our very own J.R. Grimes for public service. So I just want to recognize that.
Well, this is just right next door to a school board meeting today, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, is there anything else to come before the board today? This meeting's hereby adjourned.